All right, we've got live pizza live right now. I'm live. Welcome to the live version of Pizza Punk. My name is Pizza Jeff, and I'm here with Pizza. He calls himself Alex. I like to call him Zombie Alex. That's
You can
his.
call me whatever you want, Jeff.
I just won't call you late for pizza. That's the only thing I
Oh,
won't call you late for.
no one would ever call me late for pizza.
Well, why Zombie Alex? Where did that come from?
That came from several really lazy bandmates. So here's the
Wow.
thing. I started playing in the Zombie Mafia. Basically, I'll get to the name. I promise this is relevant. Um, I started playing in that band because of the Misfits and the Adolescents. I was working at a day camp with our other guitarist, Dave, who's a couple years younger than me. And we both found out that like we liked those bands. And he tells me, I'm starting this band. I've got a name. I've got a few songs. I've got a drummer. I go, that's cool. Who are you using as your bass player? And we'd spent like a summer playing in another band together, and it wasn't really going anywhere or doing anything. And the other people we were playing with weren't bad musicians, but it always kind of felt like Dave and I were kind of at a different level. So Dave goes, "Oh, I'm going to use the bass player from the other band," and he was kind of a scuzzball. Like neither one of us liked him, and I knew that. So I was like, "Why are you using him? Like you don't like him. I don't like him. Nobody likes him." And he goes, "Well, I don't know any other bass players." And I go, "Yeah, you do. I have a bass. I don't have an amp, but I have a bass. And honestly, if it comes down to it, like if it's the difference between you being stuck with some guy you dislike or me, I'll go buy an amp." And he's like, "Well, I have one. You can just use that." I go, "Great, there we go." So we're doing our thing, and we it was either 2006 or 2007, and Danzig was doing a show at Starland Ballroom. It was like the day after Christmas, and I took him. I was like, "Here, Merry Christmas! I got tickets." And we met our singer and our bass player Joe there. Joe wasn't in the band at the time, and so we bring Joe in, and all of a sudden I'm hanging out with these guys. They used to go to a lot of parties at Rutgers, and our drummer is also named Alex. At the time, he wasn't in the band. So there are two Alexes, and they're always on the phone at practice saying, "Oh, I'll be at the party later, and I'm going to bring Alex with me." And they would inevitably ask, which Alex. And they got sick of saying Alex from the Zombie Mafia, so they just shortened it to Zombie Alex. It was just easier for them. So I got my nickname out of pure laziness.
I like it. I like the way it rolls off the tongue. Zombie Alex. It works for me.
I've heard way worse stage names, so I'll take it.
Do you remember how did we meet? Where did we meet? Because we've met many times over the years.
I think the first time, and I could be wrong. I'm getting senile at 35, but I really think it was outside the Delancey at an Undead gig. Billy and I were playing with Bobby,
Right.
and I'm pretty sure it was outside the Delancey.
Right. Yeah, you guys were so Bobby. So Bobby had. I mean, the funny thing about the undead is they're kind of like green Jello.
Oh, there's a lot of funny things about the undead, Jeff. There's not just one. But yeah, I get what you're saying. But at the time, actually, Billy and I for like a year and a half were a stable lineup for Bobby.
Yes, I know.
He wasn't using
That's
other
right.
people when we were doing it.
That's right. But what I mean by that is right because William makes man speak, whatever the hell his name is, the Green Jello guy. He's got franchise bands wherever he can fly out to anywhere in
Yeah.
the country, and he can have a Green Jello band.
Yeah.
By the way, are you futzing with your phone or something? Because I hear a little rattling sound. Is that you?
It might be me. Might
You going
not.
like this with the phone?
No, not like that. I'm just twitching a little.
Interesting. Okay, that's cool. No, you're good. You're good. But Yeah, he has. Yeah, he just has these bands all over the world, and I know a couple of guys that were in Green Gel. It's kind of funny, but they're like it's like everybody and their mother was in Green Gel at one time. Well, I guess on a much smaller scale, a lot of people have been in the undead. However, yes, there have been several periods where they're really the lineup kind of stabilizes for a while, and you and Billy were very stable. I actually really enjoyed that lineup. Before you guys, he had, I believe they were both Japanese.
Yeah, he had
Me and a
Hitomi and
girl.
Hiromu.
Right.
Hitomi was the drummer and Hiromu
Mm-hmm.
did bass. I actually have a
Mm-hmm.
really funny story about them.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I spent a year and a half in the Undead as the bass player, and Billy was the drummer. But what a lot
Right.
of people don't know, I actually auditioned twice for the Undead, once as the drummer and once as the bass player.
Oh, really?
So at the time, right before Billy and I were in, I guess Hitomi was like missing gigs or was in a couple bands, and
Mm-hmm.
Bobby was getting kind of fed up with it. So the first thing I did was I auditioned on drums, and
She's not a
that,
good drummer. She was not a very good drummer.
well, I mean, I'm not Ginger Baker, but I can play punk rock. So
Right.
we go to this rehearsal studio in New Jersey, the same place I've worked with Rob a couple times for video
Yeah.
shoots and stuff. And we go through this like 30-song set list, and it's like August, and
Did you
there's
memorize all the songs?
yeah. There's like
Professional.
no air conditioning, no fans. It's August. I'm going through this 30-song set list.
Yeah.
And the last song Bobby wants to do is Bullet.
Ah.
And the drums on that song are a pain. So I'm sitting there, I'm sitting there tired, and the last song he wants to do is Bullet, and I'm just like, great, this isn't going to cost me at all.
Do you know how to play that? You could play that on drums?
Yeah.
But do you, question. I'm
Sure.
sorry, I'm going to do that a lot. I'm just going to cut you off a lot. It's just the way I am. Question: Do you play it like Mr. Jim can play it, or do you kind of like, like sort of?
Okay, it's been years since I've played it.
Yeah.
I live
because you're kind of a perfectionist.
Now, but I haven't tried playing it in a while. But when I auditioned and when I played it with Bobby, I played it faithfully to the Static Age recording. I didn't cheat.
Wow.
So you can see why I was pissed off having to do that last.
Yeah.
Not saying I can still do that. It's been years since I've tried. Right. But when I auditioned for Bobby and when I played it, I did it faithfully to the Static Age recording, so the 16th beats. And I was so grateful towards the end of that song where there's that little break where he's just hitting the ride cymbal one time. I could not wait for that part to hit. So anyway, I passed the drum audition, and Bobby's like, yeah, all right, you got the gig. I'm like, okay, cool. And then, like, I don't even remember. It wasn't much longer after. I didn't actually do any gigs on the drums. I guess things weren't working out with Hiromu either. And Bobby's like, all right, now I have to get a bass player. And I'm thinking, okay, number one, I'm really lazy. I do not want to cart my drum kit out for anything. I mean, don't get me wrong. If it's a spot in the Undead, I'm going to do it because, I
good resume.
I'm a kid
Good
who
for your
grew
resume.
up on punk rock in New Jersey, the Misfits and the Undead.
Yeah.
I'm not stupid. But I was like, hey, Bobby, not for nothing. Billy's a much better drummer than I am, and you've worked with him before. Why don't you just let me play the bass? I'll audition again. It's cool.
Smart.
And I'm like, it's way easier to carry one bass and sometimes a bass amp than an entire drum kit, even if it's a small drum kit.
Right.
So after I went through all that hassle of going through all the songs on drums and playing Bullet in a non-air conditioned, not even a fan rehearsal studio in August, I wound up getting the gig on bass, which made me really happy because it's a band I like, it's music I like playing, and it's a lot less stuff I have to carry.
Oh yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. So that's pretty funny. Yeah, you guys were a great lineup. Billy is a great drummer.
Oh,
Solid,
absolutely.
solid drummer. And you guys were really, I feel like you guys were really good for that band at that time. And I saw you with the Undead, I think a handful of times. Just at the Delancey. There was another show where I think he re-released "I Want You Dead."
Yeah, that
7-inch,
came out
2010.
That was before Billy and I were in the band, but it was around
Oh, it
that
was.
time.
Yeah. So he was doing a show. He was married to the mother chick at that point, and he was doing a show. Maybe that was also at the Delancey.
We did a lot of stuff at the Delancey.
Yeah, that was a popular spot for a while.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I remember the
bad line of sight, but I was at the 30th. I was at the 30th.
That was one of my favorite shows I played with the Undead because
that was a good show.
I went to CBGB's a bunch of times before it closed, and that gig, I remember Billy and me driving in because the gig was originally supposed to be at the place that used to be the Ritz.
Webster Hall.
Yes, thank you. It was supposed to be downstairs at Webster Hall.
The studio. Great place, too. Great venue.
And Pure Hell was supposed to be on the bill.
Pure Hell.
And I was really psyched about that. I was like, oh, this is cool. I'm going to get to play the Ritz.
The first black punk band.
And that never happened. Last minute, it got moved to the Delancey, and Billy and I remember driving in, and it was kind of snowy, and we were like, all right, I mean, this will still be cool, but, the weather sucks. I hope we don't have to dig the car out with a cymbal or something.
Winter 2011.
I'll take your word for it.
I think.
It sounds about right. But I just remember being really happy with that show because it just reminded me so much of the shows at CBGB's, like the way people were getting into it and moving around the stage.
People were moshing a little bit.
They seemed to be enjoying it, so that made me really happy. I was like, I never got to play CB's, but this feels like a really close second compared to that.
I'm not in a band, but I did get to jump on stage at CBGB's when my friend band was playing, and I got to sing "I Want to Be Your Dog," and it was the closest I would ever come.
CBGB's, that totally counts.
I like to count
that. Counts.
I like to count that.
Anytime we want to bust chops in the Zombie Mafia, my singer likes to mention that he played CBGB's with his old band. It was a Tuesday night audition night, and he said that there wasn't a big crowd, but it's like, dude, you got to play CBGB's. I wouldn't care if it was an audition night or whatever. It's like we've been together 13 years, and there's 6 of us. How many marriages do you know that last 13 years? So we know how to like bust each other's chops. Like I can bring up to my bass player the fact that I saw the Cramps and he never got to, and that'll get him all riled up. But yeah, that totally counts for you, and he got to do it.
Thank you for the validation.
For what little my opinion's worth,
Yeah.
But you were on stage. You're saying I actually. It's funny if you look up. You ever listen to the Avengers, the old San Francisco punk band?
I saw them live in Brooklyn.
At CB's?
No, in Brooklyn.
Okay. See, I saw them at CB's, and if you go on YouTube and look up the video from that night for "We Are the One," look for a awkward, large, me-looking individual in a blue Adolescence t-shirt. I'm right at the center of the stage, front row.
That's awesome. I'm so frustrated. 2 of the shows that I saw at CBGB's I saw the Bad Brains.
Okay, now hold on. Let me stop you. Was it the original Bad Brains or was it the Bad Brains show I went to? Because when I went, it was John Joseph.
Yep. We were at that show together. I was at that show.
Was that
with Mackie Jason? With Mackie?
Mackie was on drums. For some reason, I thought it was Chuck Treese. I know Chuck was there.
No, it was Mackie on drums. It was John Joseph.
And
it was
Doc
like a fusion, but it was billed as the Bad Brains. Now I told that to Paris Mayhew one day, And he just looked at me like, that's not the Bad Brains, like super upset that I even brought it up. Which I reminded him of years later. I was like, hey, remember that one time? Because I like didn't know about like, between him and John Joseph have a whole thing. So but yes, I was at that show and there's video of it, and I stage dived at that show. And
I have a really funny story about Daryl Jennifer from that night.
What happened?
Well, I got there and I'm over by the stage and I see Daryl, and I'm like 6'6", 6'1". I like fluctuate with heat, so I'm not a small guy. So I was like, hey, would you mind, like, can we take a picture? I was there with my friend. He's like, yeah, sure. So he grabs me and pulls me next to him, and he's like 2 heads taller than me.
He's tall. Such a tall guy.
He puts his arm around me. He goes, we got good music. And he's got his right arm around me. And then he takes his left hand and he pulls out a joint. He goes, we got good music. We got good herb. We're going to have a good night. And I just I remember looking up at him, smiling, nodding my head like, you are a massive 6'5" Rastafarian who could probably crush me with one hand. I'm going to agree to any word you say. But he was nice.
So I saw the actual Bad Brains on a boat for Rock the Boat.
I saw them in Asbury Park. I didn't see them on a boat, but they played.
Was this 2007?
It might have been around then. I just remember it was an outdoor thing in Asbury Park. It was like outside, right in front of Asbury Lanes, and the opening act was the School of Rock with Jello Biafra.
Well, all I know is HR was not good. It was that HR. Yeah, he doesn't move. But I was watching the Bad Brains documentary.
Which one?
Banned in DC or whatever it's called. The Bad Brains documentary. I didn't know there was more than one. Not the HR documentary.
Okay, that's the one I've seen.
I think it might be on Hulu. Look for the Banned in DC Bad Brains documentary. I'm watching it, and it cuts to 2007, shows the boat, and there I am, getting my ticket punched to go on the boat. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. And this was like 12 years later, and I was just blown away that I found myself in this random documentary. I was like, feels good to be like just the way that you felt being in the
Avengers.
Yeah. Right, being in the Avengers video. It's a fun feeling.
One of my high school teachers has got both of us beat. So I went to a Catholic high school, so I had to do the whole uniform thing, which sucked.
Yeah.
They were smart. Like once a month, they do this whole fundraising thing. Like if you pay us $1, you can wear jeans and a T-shirt, whatever. So I show up in jeans and a Ramones T-shirt. And because it's a Catholic high school, I had to take a religion class. And my religion teacher sees me in the Ramones T-shirt. And at the end of the class, he goes up to me and my friend who's in, I don't know, some other punk band. Might have been the Sex Pistols, might have been the Clash. He goes, are either of you guys driving now? And I go, yeah, I've got a car. I don't take the bus. He goes, do me a favor. Come see me after school lets out today. So we look at him. We go, okay. So we go to his classroom. We knock on the door like, hey, you wanted to see us? He goes, yeah, I noticed your T-shirts. You guys like punk rock? We're like, yeah, the Dead Boys, the Dickies, the Clash, all this good stuff. He goes, all right. He goes to his closet and he unlocks it. And he pulls out a manila folder, and it's all old flyers from CBGBs.
Nice.
No, it gets better. So then he goes, check this out. So he gets out this book. I forget the author, but it's something. It's the title's like F Your Idols and F You Too. And he opens to a page from Washington D.C. and it's Minor Threat playing, and there's this massive crowd. And he goes, what do you see? And I go, a show I'd sell my soul to have been at, Minor Threat in the 80s
right.
in DC. He goes, look at the crowd. What do you see? And I go, a bunch of people I'm jealous of. And he points to a particular person. And he goes, what do you see? There's my religion teacher in DC in the 80s at a Minor Threat show.
Nice. That's
right
great.
Place at the right time. I was born in the wrong era.
Yeah, I've said that many, many, many times. It's unfortunate, but Hey, we get to enjoy the internet, right?
We get to catch the reunion shows.
We get to right. That's the way to look at it. We
We
get to
appreciate what we
catch.
have and know we're lucky to see it.
Yes. I agree. But to rewind a minute, so you played. I was wondering that you played in the Undead for a while.
Yep. Year
Robbie
and a
says the
half.
first. Robbie says the first time he saw the lineup of the Undead was an online stream at Jamba Juice.
Yes, that was cool because we actually got some free food, free juice. That was awesome. Yeah, Bobby was.
You played that show?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
That was right after I joined. Bobby was talking to people from, I think it was called The Real Radio Show in New York. I don't
Okay.
know if it still exists. We got two really interesting gigs because of them. One was doing the Jamba Juice, which was kind of weird, but you know what? A gig's a gig. I'm playing in the Undead. I'm really going to complain because I'm playing in a Jamba Juice. I'm playing music I like and I'm getting free smoothies, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other really interesting gig was we drove out somewhere. I think it was Long Island. It was definitely New York, and it wasn't in Manhattan. Some buddy of the Real Radio Show was opening up a rehearsal studio for bands, and we played the opening. And one of the other bands that did the opening was Twisted Sister. But the only thing is, it was Twisted Sister with a friend of theirs singing because Dee Snider was still doing Rock of Ages. So it was all the other guys.
Oh, that's so lame. Oh,
you know, it's
like it's cool, but it's like what a downer to the story though. That like you amp it up with Twisted Sister. You're like, but I didn't have Dee Snider.
4/5 of Twisted Sister. Listen,
4/5.
they were really
Okay.
nice.
Okay.
I got to talk to them, meet them. They were nice guys.
Did you ever do
Chiller? Is better than nothing.
Did you do Chiller Theater with Bobby?
Yes, I did. Well, we didn't play, but I was there hanging out with him the year that all the former Misfits members were in that room.
Oh my God. Okay, so I was there that day too as well. Okay, that's funny. Okay, we're gonna get to that in 1 second.
Okay.
That was a funny. I'm sure you could probably tell me a lot of silliness that went on in there. But then you were only there for a year and a half. So what happened? What was the exit of the Undead?
Well, the exit's almost as funny as the entrance.
Okay, let's hear it.
Well, Bobby married Jill, the mother chick.
The mother chick.
And
please explain for anybody who will listen to this the context of this unholy union. Like, why is this so silly?
Well, this is silly because the mother chick, as the name implies, is famous for being in the Mother video, which is known because it's the most famous song that was done by Glenn Danzig with his band Danzig. And before he was in Danzig, he was in Samhain, Samhain, however you want to pronounce it. And before he did Samhain, he was in the Misfits. He was the mastermind behind the Misfits, and Bobby was in the Misfits. So now, he dated Jill too, didn't he?
Right. I think they're definitely Eskimo brothers, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So that's what makes it. I mean,
hilarious.
Listen, I'm just along for the ride.
I get it.
I'm just sitting back watching.
Were you at the wedding? You were at the wedding.
I was
right?
Absolutely. I was at the wedding. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still have my invitation somewhere.
Hold on. I'm going to pause you for 1 second. Winston Smith says he's never listened to the Undead. What's the best? Zombie Alex, what would you say the best introduction for Winston into the Undead was?
I would say my absolute favorite Undead song would be When the Evening Comes. Listen to that one. That one's really great.
Me too. And that song was actually Winston. That song, little piece of trivia, was written for the Misfits. It was given. It was given to Glenn Danzig for consideration, and Glenn Danzig was like, "I write the songs." However, I think it was a real missed opportunity because When the Evening Comes would have made for a great Misfits song, and is one of Bobby's finest songs. So
definitely would have been a great Misfits song.
Yep. You took
I
the
mean, not
words
that
right
it
out of my
wasn't a
mouth.
great Undead song. You know, I'm not trying to take
Oh yeah,
anything away from Bobby,
no,
but
great Undead song. But
that
start
would
with
have been
that.
really cool. Yeah.
Start with that.
Be My Ghoul is a lot of fun too.
Yes, and Rock
But
and Roll Horror.
yeah, definitely start with When the Evening
When
Comes.
the Evening Comes. The Invisible Man is a great song.
Yep.
I Want You Dead is a
That's a
great. The
fun
whole
one.
EP. The whole EP
My
is
Kind
good.
of Town was a lot of fun to play the bass on until
Yeah.
well, it was. I was doing this weird. I can't just sit back and follow the guitar when I do the bass. So I had this weird intro thing where I was doing too many notes, and I did it for a while. And then Bobby's like, "Just play it straight." So I was like, "Okay,
Yeah.
you're the boss. This is your band." But I was kind of like, "Oh, that was a lot of fun." But My Kind of Town's a lot of fun too.
So, all right, now to rewind. Oh no, you didn't tell me. So, what was the? So, why was the mother chick the reason why you left the?
Oh no, she was well. It wasn't specifically her.
Okay.
And I didn't leave.
Oh, you did not leave.
Well, I wasn't fired either. I mean,
Okay.
I didn't even hear it from Bobby. What happened was, Bobby and Jill got married.
Right.
Bobby sold off his collection
to Umberto.
And at the time, Billy calls me, and I don't know. I don't know if I mentioned the band or what. And he goes, "Oh yeah, we're not doing that anymore." I go, "What?" I go, "Excuse me?" He goes, "Yeah, Bobby's retiring. He got married. He sold off the collection. He's going to retire." And I was like, "Oh, it really would have been nice if I'd heard that from Bobby, but at least I'm not like showing up to a rehearsal and nobody's there." So Bobby just, I guess when he got married and sold off his collection, he was ready to like ride off into the sunset with his wife and retire. And so I guess he told Billy, and Billy told me. I guess maybe he figured Billy would have told me, which makes sense. Billy and I were really
time in. He spent some time in Israel, I believe, too.
Yeah, yeah. And then I guess when I went to an Undead gig a couple of years ago with my bass player just to say hi.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't really stayed in touch with Bobby. I mean, he was happy enough to see me, so it's not like he wants me dead, huh? Waka waka. But I haven't really stayed in touch with him, so I'm assuming what happened. It looks like what happened is he was ready to retire, and then him and Jill got a divorce, and he decided to start doing the Undead again. And when he did, he just picked up another 2-3 members. I'm pretty sure his current wife plays with them too.
Yes, Diane, who's a real sweetheart. And
I've met her. She's nice.
I think they are a match made in heaven, and I'm very happy for them both. I'm glad that the mother chick did not work out because, man, she was bananas. And every time that I saw Bobby, like around the time that you were in the band, like she was crazy.
It was an interesting time. Like I said, it wasn't my band.
Right.
That was the beauty of being the bass player. It's a relatively easy job.
Right.
I could just sit back and watch what happened and keep playing the stuff I like. I mean, at least I got to play a bunch of Misfit songs with a Misfit. Like there was one gig we did out in Manville where we played 12 Hits from Hell in its entirety.
Nice.
Except Halloween 2. He didn't want to do that.
Because he was like super Christian at that time, or
no. This was he didn't get into that stuff till after I was out of the band.
Okay. Right, that makes sense. Okay.
He didn't want to do it. I think it was too slow, he said, or he didn't like it. There was just some reason he didn't want to do it.
Gotcha.
So he goes, "We're going to do 12 Hits from Hell." I'm like, okay.
It's a mouthful.
Awesome.
It's a mouthful.
But the only thing we're not going to do is we're not going to do Halloween 2. Instead, we're going to do Spook City, USA.
Oh my God!
So I'm like, this is great. So not only do I get to do these Misfit songs with the dude from the Misfits, but the one kind of slow song is being replaced by a song I really enjoy. And my bass player from the Zombie Mafia, Joe, that's like one of his favorite songs. So I was like, dude, You need to clear your schedule on this date.
Was this recorded anywhere?
Not to my knowledge. I know Robbie and his dad were there.
Robbie, you got a recording of this? My
I
God,
don't
I want to
know if
hear him. I
him
want
or
to hear
Bob
this Spook
recorded
City.
anything, but
Ah,
but I was like, dude, you need to be here for this. We're doing 12 Hits from Hell. He goes, done. I go, no, it gets better. We're not doing Halloween 2. We're doing like your favorite song. He's like, oh, I'm not missing this.
that's
Uh,
actually really cool, man, because I mean, I think the original Misfits might have done it in 79, but I don't think maybe they didn't, and maybe maybe it was one of the only times that song's ever really truly been played live. I don't think the Misfits 95 ever played Spook City, USA, right?
I don't know anything about 95 ever doing it,
So
but
there you go.
yeah, it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun in the Undead,
Yeah,
and I can appreciate that I wasn't fired. I wasn't kicked out of the band for being inept.
right,
So I've
right.
just, I don't know, man. I've had a lot of luck. Like, I've moved around in a bunch of different bands, and like, if anything falls apart or ends, something pops up, and I'm able to just like bounce into another group. Like, I did the Zombie Mafia thing, and I was in the original lineup of that, and I did it for a while, and I decided to leave for a couple of years. Sometimes the grass looks greener, and it really isn't. And then I was in another band, and then that band, the singer decided he didn't want to do it anymore, and that was right when the opening in the Undead happened. So I jumped into that.
Perfect.
Hmm?
I said that's perfect.
And then right when the Undead's Bobby's done, I get a phone call from the Zombie Mafia guys who I'd stayed friends with, and the guy they replaced me with couldn't do it anymore because of job commitments.
Hmm.
So they had a gig, and they're like, hey, would you mind filling in for this gig? I go, yeah, sure. I still remembered how to play the songs. We were tight. I don't like leaving anybody in the lurch. Like, I've filled in a bunch of bands part-time, like for one gig or a weekend, just because I talked to guys. Like, I did a weekend on bass for Children of October because they didn't have a bass player. Or like, I've been there when like a bandmate can't make something and it sucks.
Mhm.
So anytime I can help out, I try to. So they were like, yeah, can you do this gig? I'm like, yeah, I still remember the songs. So I go, we did the Brighton Bar. And then after the gig, they were like, yeah, Eddie, the guy that took my place, can't do it anymore. Do you want to come back and do it? And I'm like, well, the Undead just called it quits. So sure, why not? And then,
Um,
sure, sorry.
no. Go right ahead. Finish what you were
All
saying.
I was going to say is, and then, just to make things funnier, a couple years go by, and Eddie, the guy that replaced me, his schedule changed, so he wound up back in the band anyway. So now all six of us are shenaniganing together.
Nice. That's wonderful.
Everything's coming up in our house.
I want to ask you more about the Zombie Mafia played for got to open for a lot of big ticket acts. Before I ask you about that, first of all, Rob says that the mother chick specifically asked him not to record. He had his camera and he didn't record it, but she had that. I remember she would tape every gig with that little GoPro
I do remember
pre-GoPro.
that thing.
Remember
Yeah,
that thing?
I
It was
do.
like a stick, and it was like
Yeah.
terrible. Probably in HD, probably like 720p HD. And she would tape everything on that. She thought that was gonna. She was like bankrolling these shows for whatever reason. Bobby didn't. I don't think Bobby cared either which way. She would just always set it up somewhere.
Probably
And
not.
I guess so. I guess it does exist on. And I tried to search on YouTube. Nothing turned up for it,
The only
unfortunately.
thing I've ever seen with me in the Undead on YouTube, we
Yeah.
did we did a show at, well, it was an interview show. It was called Rue and Who,
Yes.
REW and Who, and we played at
Yes.
Otto's.
Right.
And there's like
That's where she did the show. Rue
there's
used to
like
do the show at Autos. Yep.
there's like two songs with me and Billy playing on YouTube somewhere.
But the audio is terrible, right? Because
Yeah, probably,
yeah,
but at
yeah.
least it proves I'm not full of it, and I actually was in the band.
I feel like there's photographic evidence out there. I'm pretty
Well,
sure I must have somewhere. I must have cell phone video. I must have taken a video or two of
I
you
know
guys playing.
there were pictures on the Undead's website back when Bobby had it.
Right.
But yeah, so well, it doesn't surprise me that Rob tried to film it, and it also doesn't surprise me that Jill put a stop to it.
Yeah, that's just like wanting to run interference, like wanting to be like thinking, you're in a position of power or something. But Rob says he does have the bootleg of the Jamba Juice audio. That's hilarious.
I didn't even know there was a bootleg of that.
There you go. There you go. You talked to Rob. So
I'm
speaking of
sure
Rob, you and Rob are you play in Robbie Bloodshed's band right now. That's great.
Yeah. I just spent all day
Phenomenal.
yesterday with him rehearsing for the vinyl recording we're doing next weekend
Right.
in New York.
Right. Mazel tov and congratulations to both you and Robbie. I hope it goes off without a hitch.
Appreciate it. I
It's
hope
gonna
so too.
be
I'll be honest.
it's gonna
I
be
had
daunting.
no idea what I was signing up for. I didn't understand what Rob meant, because he called me and he goes, "Hey, can you be free on this date? We're doing a recording." I go, "Sure." And I've done other recordings with Rob before. He goes, "We're gonna do these 5 or 6 songs, and they're going to get pressed to vinyl." I go, "Okay, that's cool. I've never been on vinyl before. I've done a bunch of CDs."
There you go.
But I'm thinking, all right, this is going to be like your typical recording session. We're going to go in, we're
Right.
going to play.
Right.
Until we get the one version right, it's going to get pressed on all the vinyls. And then after I agree to do it, we're talking, and he goes, "No, that's not what it's going to be like. We're going to be doing it live. So however many people ordered this song, we're going to do, like, if 7 people ordered this song, we're going to do the song 7 times." And I was like, "What?"
No two the same.
I was like, "Okay." Like, I'm thinking, I'm just the rhythm guitarist. I don't
Right.
have to worry too much. I just have to make sure I know the songs. I'm like, "You're going to do the vocal tracks like 20 something times. Like, your voice is going to be..." And, like, I'm not saying Rob isn't capable. He's one of the best musicians I know. If he tells me he can do something, he's going to do it. I can set my watch to him. But I'm like, man, if it was me, I would be like bringing an entire, like, several liter bottle of tea, an entire thing of honey with me. I know. I mean, I can't sing worth anything, but if I was a singer, I would not want to do that.
So break it down for me from a musician speaking to a non-musician. Because Robbie has always been a 3-piece, and now he's bringing you in to the fold and making it into a 4-piece. Why? What does this do for his sound live? Explain to me how this all works.
Well, in theory, if I play everything right, it'll thicken up his sound. It'll beef it up.
Right.
In theory, if he wanted to, he could stop playing on certain parts of the song and focus on singing.
Right.
It's kind of just like having a backup. Like, we did a gig in Philadelphia, and with like 3 songs left in the set, something went wrong with his rig. I don't know whether it was his guitar or one of his pedals. I don't think it was his amp, but we were like in the middle of the set, and he couldn't figure out what went wrong with it. So he was like, "All right, forget it." He put his guitar down, and he just looks at me and goes, "We're going to do these 3 because you know them and there aren't a lot of leads." And he just did vocals. So I'm kind of just covering him. In theory, it thickens up the sound, but it's kind of like a musical bulletproof vest. Like, you're covering your bases.
Right.
If something goes wrong with your guitar and you don't have a backup, you have another guitarist there. I mean, I just kind of do it because he asked me to. We're friends.
Right.
So I don't know. He wanted another guitarist. You'll have to ask him what having me in the band does that's, not a detriment. But At least from my point of view, having a two guitar band thickens the sound. Like if like take the Adolescents. If you had Rick Agnew
Yeah.
going off and doing a bunch of leads,
Mm-hmm.
if you didn't have Frank Agnew doing the rhythm guitar behind it, it would sound really thin because the bass is there, but the bass is like, you usually, I mean, unless you're in Motorhead, the bass is kind of muffled, or if you're Jerry, the bass is kind of muffled lower down in the mix.
Gotcha.
It's just a thicker, more stable sound having a rhythm guitarist.
I have said this a bunch of times, both to the members and as well as just in passing. I don't know if you're familiar with Nimvind, but I think Nimvind needs a rhythm guitarist. Like it just would really, really help. He does. It doesn't. It doesn't help his live show is great, but it would just be so much more if he had if he was able to focus more on the leads without having to stop doing those.
Yeah, I know Nimvind. I've seen Nimvind. And I mean, the thing is, like, bands are going to do what they want to do. I can't tell.
Right.
Who am I? But I mean,
Right.
What made sense to me is always having a rhythm guitarist and a lead guitarist, but because, like, when you go into the studio, even if you're a three-piece band, if you only have one guitarist, that one guitarist is going to lay down a rhythm track under their leads anyway. So
right.
if you want to like get as close to a studio recording sound live as you can, you're probably going to want those two guitars at least.
Right, which is why, and that's Nimvind's albums are, as said, Nimvind, they're larger than life. They're these ginormous albums, and so it's just like it kills me that his sound. I feel like he's spread too thin live. That's what it is.
That's the thing with only one guitarist, it can be a thin sound. So
yeah. So no, I think it was a smart move to bring into the fold for the Robbie Bloodshed band, or Robbie Bloodshed, however you want to call it. And have you gone out and toured with him yet, or are you
not with Rob? He was talking about it, and then this COVID stuff happened. I mean, we were talking about doing it. I was looking forward to doing it. I'm still looking forward to doing it. I've gone out. I haven't done like the 3-month-long or 2-month-long tours that, like, I know he did that with Vigora. I'm lucky. The guys in the Zombie Mafia are all in kind of the same situation I am, where we have full-time jobs, but we love doing this. So we all take our vacation time. Mm-hmm. And like we've gone out for like 2 weeks at a time. So I've done runs that are like more than just weekend runs, but it's been with them. It hasn't been with Rob. So we were just talking about it yesterday in the ride back from Rhode Island. When this dies down, we do want to take it out there for like 2 weeks, and I'm ready to go. Like I always love going out. Some people get sick of it. I never do. Like the first tour we did
it's an adventure.
Mafia, we were like, the day we got back, we were just like, I was at work and I texted my bass player. I'm like, this sucks. Get a van. We'll book the thing on the road. I just want to go out again.
Yeah. But, yeah. It's as I've spoken. It's like a pirate's life, the road dog pirate's life. That's what it is, and it's some adventure. It really is a fun adventure. Winston asks both of us, do we like the extra guitar on the Misfit shows? And my answer is yes. I 100% love the extra guitar. I think it's great. And I think, frankly, I wish it was Bobby instead of AC. Nothing against AC. I think AC is a great guitarist. And again, I'm not sure Bobby could play some of the stuff that AC could play. However, I do think that it helps significantly. And I'm glad that there is an extra guitar player. What about you, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Bobby, Bobby's got some chops, man. Like
He does.
When I was
Oh, he
when I
does.
was with him, I saw him doing some soloing.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
I kind of paused and reflected. I was like, you don't hear this kind of stuff on Misfits and Undead records. That's pretty cool. I think it definitely it's a plus having a second guitarist.
Yeah.
So I absolutely think it's a good thing that they had a second guitarist.
There's no
I
negative.
think that if they're not going to go with another original Misfit, that AC is a great choice.
Agreed.
He's played with some A-list bands. I mean, Joan Jett, the Murder Dolls.
Yeah, he's got a good
he's
pedigree.
Pro. So
Yeah,
I think
he's a pro.
I think that the guys they chose that aren't Misfits from back in the day, like Dave Lombardo and AC, were, if we can't have original members, they were excellent choices.
Right. Well, I was talking with Robbie, and I think he came on the Lodi show, and we were thinking of the same guy. You know who I think would just really crush it way more than Dave Lombardo is Travis Barker, man. Travis Barker would crush it. Yeah, dude.
He's got chops. I don't know. I think
Bill Stevenson.
Oh, Bill Stevenson would be great.
Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Here's my thing with Lombardo. First of all, that's the first. I've seen a bunch of different incarnations. No, I've seen like 2 incarnations in the Misfits.
Mm-hmm.
The original and the Jerry Fits. And Lombardo doing Earth AD stuff is probably only the second time I've ever seen Earth AD stuff played in time. Like perfectly in time.
Mm-hmm.
And Lombardo does thrash, and
he's too robotic, man. He's just too robotic.
He's too robotic. See, I think, as weird as it's going to sound, and I realize it's like opposites, I feel like the thrash background, while still keeping perfect time, gives it a little bit of that, not like, I don't want to say sloppiness, but almost like that trashy kind of like you used to be able to tell Robo was on an album because he had like one setting and he had those metal bracelets.
Yeah.
You could always tell it was Robo drumming.
Yes.
I kind of feel like Lombardo adds, as much as his timing's perfect, I feel like Lombardo adds a little bit of that kind of trashy metal bracelets on a recording sound to it. So I dig it. But Stevenson would be awesome.
Question though. All right. So I don't know because I'm not a drummer, but you understand drumming. I'm sure Robbie could answer this question. Is Dave Lombardo doing Bullet like Mr. Jim?
You know what? I saw him do it, and I legitimately don't remember. Rob, if you're watching, if you remember, chime in.
Rob, is this answer this?
I think that Dave is playing it correctly, but I think they're 2 very different drummers. Like, I mean, obviously they're 2 different drummers. Lombardo has this thrash background. I mean, the dude was in Slayer, and Mr. Jim has this really great jazz playing style. Like, I always kind of think, when I think of Mr. Jim, I think of Jerry Nolan from the New York Dolls.
I think that's I think that's a very good comparison.
Like when Jerry got the gig with the Dolls, the only other serious competition he had for the gig was Marky Ramone.
Yes.
The reason Jerry got it and Marky didn't is Marky came from a heavy metal background.
Right. Dust.
And Jerry idolized Gene Krupa. He came from a jazz background. And like the reason he got the gig is like Jerry had that jazzy playing. Jerry could play like there was an interview with Sylvain, and he was like, yeah, we gave it, like, they were both good drummers, but Jerry could do like a twist beat. Jerry had that jazz background, which was like really in tune with what we liked. So that's why Jerry got the gig.
He was I mean, listen, Marky could have done the job, but Jerry was perfect for it. Jerry was perfect for the New York Dolls. He was the missing piece. I mean, I I've heard recordings with Billy on the drums, but I neither here nor there. When you hear Jerry Nolan, and it's not even just he's got swagger. He had swagger.
The attitude, the fashion
attitude.
sense.
Yep, that matched, and his swagger, Jerry Nolan's swagger matched Johnny Thunders and David Johansen and Sylvain. I'd say Arthur Kane really just stood there like a statue. So I don't know if he really counts, but
I mean, can you swagger if you don't move?
I don't think so. I don't think
Jerry
so.
Nolan, like when I took up drumming, like I had my influences. You know, I was really like Clem Burke from Blondie, Gina Shock from the Go-Go's.
Who is a phenomenal Clem Burke is a phenomenal drummer, and there's an Iggy Pop bootleg from 1985. No,
when him and Gary Valentine from Blondie were both in the band.
Yes, it's my birthday. It's November 25th, 1981, 4 years before I was born. And Clem Burke is just making a meal out of these parts, like because Iggy doesn't give a shit. And Clem Burke is just doing these intros. It's like all over the place.
Greatest catch of my life at a concert.
You caught his drumstick? You caught his drumstick?
Better than that. So I used to go to the Joey Ramone Bash when they had it at Irving Plaza because they always had a bunch of great bands. You know, it was a great cause. Yep. And I took Dave, our guitarist, one year, and it was year Clem was doing a couple songs. And I'm up at the barricade in the front row, and Clem does his thing.
Yeah.
And he comes out center stage, and I'm right-handed. And I've got my right hand is pinned at my side, but I've got my left hand out on the barricade. Right. And Clem just looks out at the crowd, sees me, and he tosses both of his drumsticks underhand. With my non-dominant hand, I caught both sticks.
Wow.
Not just one, I caught the pair. And Dave, I could never do it again. But Dave was like, "Did you catch one?" I'm like, "No, I got both." And his eyes just got like saucers. And he's like, "Give me one." I'm like, "All right, you know, I got two. I don't need both." But like that I could never repeat that catch in my life if I tried.
Wow. That's pretty spectacular. Real quick, Robbie says on Bullet, I feel he does Jim 16th's notes well, but he also adds a bunch of fills. It actually gives him a break on the constant arm tension doing the hi-hat stuff. So I think that's kind of, you know, even if he's doing more fills, I think that's BS, man. Like, it's kind of like, and here's the thing, and I talk about this all the time. I'm sure you could probably say a whole bunch about this. You know, say what you want about Doyle, but Doyle is master of the downstroke, which is not an easy.
No, it's not.
Not an easy thing to do.
You're absolutely right. I mean,
I was talking to Monty Melnick. Yeah, I was talking to Monty Melnick about it because I was trying to understand. Because I'm like, wait a minute, but aren't you just going like this? And I'm realizing it's like you're doing a windmill motion. It's like if you go up and down, you're getting the double hit. But if you're windmilling, you're doing an extra motion just to get the same. So you actually have to go twice as fast, right?
Yeah. See, to me, it's just like doing an up and down, but you have to do it faster because you're not hitting the upstroke.
Right. That's what I mean.
Down,
same thing.
Get all the way back up and then down again quickly.
Right.
Like that's the beauty about guys like Johnny and Doyle. They make it look easy.
Yeah.
It really isn't.
Yeah.
Like, I think Billy Joe from Green Day was quoted when they played the Ramones Rock Hall induction, and I think Billy went up to Johnny after and was like, "Man, like I don't know how you did it for whole sets. Like I tried to do it for like Teenage Lobotomy, and halfway through I had to switch up to like alternate picking because I just couldn't do it."
Yeah.
Like the really talented musicians make the tough stuff look easy, like Johnny and Doyle.
Right. But also, I think that it's a testament to the aesthetic of the sound as it was written and recorded to not cheat. And again, who am I? I'm a non-musician talking from my an armchair internet critic talking, from a non-musician perspective. But I like to think that music is my sports because I don't like sports.
Yeah,
But I love music. I could talk about guitarists like they're baseball players. And so for me, I'm like, that's where I look and I'm going like, I admire. And if you like Ramones and if you like down picking, you got to check out this band, Dark Thoughts. This guy out of Philadelphia, great band. And this guy, they're a 3-piece. And the first of all, the drummer is like a machine. Drummer's a machine, and
good machine or bad machine?
Like good machine. Like, oh yeah. I see what you're saying. No, in the best way. Like the strictest Marky Ramone machine drum playing influence. And then this guy, this guitarist, he's just down. He's just doing all down picking, and it's just really insane. And he's singing while he's down picking. Just check him out. Check out Dark Thoughts. Matter of fact, I'm going to pull him up while we're talking here. Question for you. Oh, hold on. We have Joe says, first of all, Lombardo played pop, rock, bongos, and came from a Latin drumming background a decade before joining Slayer. He may be best known in the thrash world, but it's an insult to simply label him a thrash drummer. So Joe wants to give him more.
Hey, fair enough. Listen, I grew up in a punk background. Okay, my roots are in '80s Orange County punk rock, Agent Orange, Social Distortion, TSOL, The Adolescents. I'm not a metal guy. I got bandmates who are, and that's cool. If we're in the van and they want to listen to it, that's fine. But I don't know my metal history the way I know my '80s punk rock. So if Lombardo has that history, fair enough, cool. And I'm sorry I didn't know it. I know him from Slayer. So I'm going by what I know.
Joe's just breaking balls. But I don't know, Joe, you have to clarify what you're saying here. You're saying, second of all, Marky, sure, but never would have worked. Are you referring to the New York Dolls? Or are you referring to the Misfits? Because we're not talking about the Misfits.
No.
In fact, we both agree that Bill Stevenson would be a phenomenal fit.
Absolutely.
So, there's that. Listen, I have to take a massive piss. I've been drinking water. It's part of my New Year's resolution. Do you think you can keep this, fill the dead air while I go run and take a piss real quick? Can you do that?
Fill the dead air. All right, give me a topic. So
okay, I want you to talk about the logistics of playing with Bobby in the Undead. What talk about the bass parts or something. I'll be right back. 60 seconds.
All right. So bass parts for the Undead. I mean, what can I say? It's punk rock. It was, to me at least, it was a lot like doing bass parts for the Ramones songs. I tried to keep it consistently downstrokes. Couldn't always do it, but I tried to. They were a lot of fun. Well-written bass parts. All the guys that were in the band when they recorded it, it was great. A lot of them were a lot of fun. Be My Ghoul was an interesting bass line. Rock and Roll Whore. Rock and Roll Whore is a nightmare because in most songs, the verse part stays the same and the chorus part stays the same. You just change up for the different parts. Rock and Roll Whore is the only song I've ever played where they're different. Each one is different, and you have to really know the song and play it in the correct order. And if you don't know it, like verbatim, it's going to be wrong. Like most songs, the verse part stays the same for 3 verses. The chorus is the same for 3 choruses. Rock and Roll Whore, verse 1, you do something. Verse 2, you do something else. Verse 3, you do something else. And the choruses are kind of the same. I didn't get it until I actually played it. Like, one of the guys that was in the band before me was complaining about it, and I didn't really understand what he meant, that like none of the parts are the same and you really have to know it if you're playing it. And then when I wound up in the band, I understood what he meant. That one, you either know it verbatim or you're going to be playing it wrong.
There you go. Hold on, let's go back and look through the comments. I'll have to listen back to that. Thank you for covering while I took a quick piss.
No problem. Basically, all I said was playing the undead bass parts. To me, it was a lot like the bass for the Ramones. I tried to keep it like downstrokes.
Gotcha.
It was just a lot of fun.
Um,
didn't really miss anything.
So Winston says he also plays avant-garde-ish with Patton in Fantomas. So I guess he's referring to Dave Lombardo. Joe says if Bill Stevenson wasn't available, Brandon Pertzborn would have been my next choice. That's Doyle's guy, who is a beast.
He also did Suicidal at the
yes, which opened for the Misfits.
Yep,
so
that's where I saw him. And
right.
he's
You were at the
currently
MSG
Marilyn
show.
Manson's drummer, I think.
Amazing.
Yeah, beast on the drums, absolutely.
Total beast on the drums. There's only one Marky when we talk here. Yeah, but Joe, I don't know if you understand what we're talking about. Would Marky have been a fit for New York Dolls, not the Misfits? So I don't know what you mean. We're talking about Jerry Nolan versus Marky Ramone, not Marky Ramone versus Dave Lombardo or whoever, But again, who was I talking about with Marky Ramone not playing any of the Misfits parts right when he was playing with Jerry? He did not.
Might have been Rob, because Rob and I had this discussion last night.
Okay, maybe that was it.
Maybe.
And he recently told. I did not know why. Whatever, that's for another day. But very, very interesting. I never knew why Marky had left Jerry, or why Jerry and Marky had a falling out. And
neither did I. I still don't.
I guess from my understanding, I guess it's because he wanted to change the band name to Marky Ramone and the Misfits.
Yeah, good luck with that, Marky.
I don't know. I don't actually know that. Rob wants to know: did you ever play "Put Your Clothes Back On" with Bobby?
Yes, I did. I do remember that. We did it a couple of times right towards the end of my tenure in the band, but we definitely played that one. I remember it.
Rue Morg, a longtime listener here on a variety of shows, wants to know: was Bobby open for ideas or changes in the Undead?
He might have been. I was smart enough not to rock the boat. I didn't ask. I mean,
gotcha.
When I was in the band, like I said, he didn't like me messing around with the intro to My Kind of Town, because I was doing this weird. I mean, it worked, and I got compliments on it. But I was basically doing a bass fill under the lead on the intro. And, I'd done it for a while. And then one day Bobby was at practice, he was like, listen, do me a favor, don't do that. I want the bass really consistent under the lead because I'm playing the lead part. I go, okay, you're the boss. Right. Sure. We didn't really do any recording when I was in the band. And he never asked for any input. We did one session at his mom's house.
I met his mom briefly. I was there. Postmortem Records upstairs in the attic.
Yeah. I said hello to his mom. I didn't really get to talk to her.
She was in front of the TV.
Yeah, pretty much. We did a 3-song demo.
Oh, cool.
And I don't have a copy. I couldn't tell you the names of the songs anymore.
It's a shame, man.
Yeah, but I'm fairly certain that none of them made it onto that newest Undead album. I just remember going to the house, laying down the bass for 3 songs. And I remember then he's like, oh yeah, this is the Marshall that I used on 12 Hits from Hell. Here's the Fender I played on London Dungeon. Here, do you want to play it? And my hands are shaking.
Nice.
I'm like, yes. Yes, I do want to try this piece of history. But I kind of had the Ferris Bueller's Day Off Ferrari mentality. I don't want to touch it. I just want to wipe it with a diaper. I don't want to sneeze on it wrong. But I mean, how do you say no to trying out this iconic gear that you've heard about?
Austin
since you were
Smith,
a teenager.
by the way, Austin Smith says that Angel Sin is his favorite Zombie Mafia song. So,
Oh, well, thank you. We appreciate that.
and
That
Joe, yeah, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that was our guitarist Eddie's baby. So
There you go.
sure he'll be
Cheers
very
to Eddie.
pleased to hear that.
Joe doesn't care about the New York Dolls. He doesn't care about Marky Ramone versus Jerry Nolan. He only cares about two things. Joe only cares about talking Misfits as if it was music baseball, or if he's eternally locked in a battle with Tracy over who's better, Metallica or Megadeth. Joe is for Metallica and Tracy's for Megadeth, and I think that they'll be locked in that battle forevermore. So,
well, he can battle that all he wants, but if he's depriving himself of the New York Dolls, that's a real crime. You don't know.
I agree. I agree. Poor Joe. Joe also says Marky doesn't play anything wrong. Tell him to play something wrong. See how that goes. That's right. That's right. Because Marky Ramone, as we know, first of all, Marky Ramone is a tough guy, and he would even put Doyle in a headlock. You got to be careful with around Marky Ramone. He is what is he from Brooklyn? Originally Brooklyn.
Yeah,
Tough.
he's from Brooklyn.
Rue says that Marky played to his own beat in the Jerry Fits. Yeah, that's hilarious. That he probably was just doing like your Ramon 1, 2, whatever.
I just remember I saw them a couple times with him. My biggest memories are he got carried out on stage at Starland Ballroom in a trash can once and popped out of it. And yeah, I just remember them being really, really fast with Marky, like faster than the albums.
Wow.
So, I mean, I remember Robo's first show back, and dude, that was like I remember two things from that night. I remember how spot on perfect Robo's drumming was that night.
Oh, really?
Like it was absolutely perfect.
Really?
Yeah, really. Like, because I know Robo's got his, the reputation of doing his own thing, but
right.
This was like spot on. I was floored. And then the other thing I remember is they played Death Comes Ripping. And the only reason I remember that is when I was at that show, I was still in high school, and the drummer from my high school band was this metalhead who was obsessed with, I guess, Cradle of Filth did a version of it. Mm-hmm. So it was like his favorite song. So I was like, "You coming with me tonight?" He goes, "Nah, they're not going to play it. They never play it." And to be fair, I'd seen them a couple times, and it hadn't been in the set list. And it was part of the encore. I don't think it was the last song they did, but it was one of the last three. So I go to practice the next practice, and I go,
yeah,
they played it, and he flipped me off because he thought I was messing with him, and he's like, forget you. I'm like, no, dude, I'm not busting balls. They played it.
Forget
it was great.
Effer.
He was so pissed about it.
I will never forget 2 times. I will never forget Death Comes Ripping. The first time was watching cell phone footage of Denver Riot Fest and seeing Jerry come out of the silhouette, the fog silhouette, and he just does a bass boom, and you can hear. You hear Doyle's guitar. I think maybe I'm making this up, but it was like doing some sort of feedback or something, and then all of a sudden, Dave Lombardo does the boom, boom, boom. And it just, you see Glenn just jumps out of nowhere. They all just jump into like they just jump in to the song. And even through the computer screen, the chills that went up my spine. And then the second time was seeing it at Chicago Riot Fest, not even 2 weeks later. And like being like, oh my God, like there they are, the 3 of them together. And it was like Death Comes Ripping. So it was like a very special song that's tied to very special memory of that.
Yeah, I mean, Misfits fans, when you hear that first bass note for Death Comes Ripping, you know what's coming.
I remember
I only saw one of the reunion shows.
Which one was that?
I went to the one in Newark,
I was there as well. That was okay.
and I
That was nice.
told my
Glenn's
wife.
mom died. Glenn's mom died
Yeah,
that night.
yeah, I found out about that after. I felt terrible about it. I told my wife, I was like, "Look, I'm gonna buy. I'm gonna make you a deal." Because I knew guys that went out to Chicago and Denver, and my bass player flew out to Vegas, saw them multiple times. I said, listen, this is really important to me. I'm not going to go for any of the like West Coast stuff, but I've been saving. I need you to know two things. Number one, if they do an East Coast show, I kind of have to do this. And
Right.
number two, I'm going to get the floor seats. I'm only going to do it once, but I have to do the floor for this.
It's the
And
only way to
I,
see that show.
I was
If you
like
can.
20 feet back, dead center. And
Yeah.
I can remember Horror Business and Night of the Living Dead. I had this like out of body experience.
Yeah.
I flashed back to like sophomore year of high school. I'm in my first band's drummer's basement, and we learned to play together playing like Halloween. And I'm flashing back. I was in the Undead. I played these Misfits songs with Bobby, and like when we were in high school, we'd practice on Friday nights, and then when it got too late, the neighbors would complain. We'd literally just go to White Castle, get like a dozen burgers each, go back to his house, and every Friday night we would talk about how great would it be if the
Yeah.
original Misfits got back to like this was the stuff of legend
Of
that
legend.
you had a better chance of growing a second head than you did of seeing this, and for it to
Were you
actually
at the
happen.
question? Were you at the show where Michael Graves opened up for
Yeah, I was there for that one.
interesting. What was that like?
I don't, it was like seeing the '95 Misfits with Ghouls Beyond Bass. I mean, it wasn't bad. He only did like 2 or 3 songs. It wasn't like.
Well, I just mean the whole night in general, like the idea of like Graves opening for Danzig. It's kind of like crazy,
Yeah,
right?
it's weird. Frankly, if I can be honest, I'm surprised Glenn didn't put a stop to it.
Yeah, I
Maybe, I
wonder
mean,
why that was.
I don't know the man, but it kind of seems like something, if I was a betting man, I wouldn't put money on him being into the idea of that happening.
Yeah, right. Right.
But, I mean, he came out and did 3 songs. I never got to see the '95 Misfits. I saw the Jerry Fits with a couple different drummers.
Me too. Yeah.
So for me, it was just like, okay, it was cool to see.
Yeah, that's cool. I would have liked to have
Honestly, I
seen
think
that.
I was more surprised it actually happened than anything else,
Yeah.
because I heard it was happening. I'm like, no way Glenn's gonna like
Yeah.
have this happen at his gig.
Kind of mind-boggling when you really think about it.
But I mean, on the other hand, Glenn is a big enough deal that he probably doesn't have to worry about what the opening act is doing. They're all there to
Right.
see him.
Right. It's just interesting that this is the only show in the history of the world where Michael Graves played Misfit songs and Glenn Danzig played Misfit songs on the same stage
That's
for the
true.
same
I
show.
never thought of that.
Yeah, it's kind of insane when you think about it like that. So,
Yeah.
Wednesday Store says, Wednesday Store, interesting name, Wednesday Store. Any thoughts on the Kiss New Year's Dubai streamed gig? Crazy, genius, prices seem ridiculous. Were the Misfits tickets for MSG reasonable? So I have a couple of things to say about this. First of all, people thought I was crazy that I flew out to Chicago, where I used to live. So I actually knew people. So I like had a couch to crash on. People thought I was crazy to fly out for the Misfits Riot Fest show. But you want to know something? First of all, the combined total for the trip, the whole trip, was $300, which is the cost of one floor ticket at all the later shows.
Yeah, that's what I paid.
And it was
Second
just like,
of all, there are no guarantees in life.
Thank you.
You never knew if there were going to be any more shows. Like I personally, like I said, I told my wife I wasn't going out to the West Coast. I did that full well knowing I might regret that a lot later in life.
Plus, I saw the Descendants. I saw the Hives.
There you
I
go.
saw. I mean, I saw a bunch of bands.
You got your money's worth.
I got my money's. I saw Rob Zombie. I didn't want to see Rob Zombie. I saw the Deftones. I didn't want to see the Deftones. I saw what's the guy? Nick 13. Tiger Army. That was okay.
I've seen them a couple times.
Bad Religion. I saw Bad Religion. That was great.
Can't go wrong with Bad Religion.
You can't go wrong with Bad. I saw Social Distortion, which I couldn't care less for.
Really?
Unfortunately,
not a Social D fan?
No, just never tickled my pickle. Point being,
even when Chuck Biscuits was drumming for them,
it just never, never tickled my pickle. And so it's like,
fair enough.
But for $150, $300 round trip,
that's a lot of good bands.
But come New Jersey, come MSG, I financed both of those tickets on my credit card. I actually financed them. I paid monthly payments because I knew that the only way I was going to see these shows, it's like, I hate to be so vulgar, but it's like the difference between, and again, I don't, there is no, I mean, this is not aimed at people that can't afford a ticket. If you can't afford a ticket, you do whatever you have to do to see the show. If you have to be up in the bleachers, you be up in the bleachers, whatever. Good thing you got to the show. If it is within your means to be on the floor and you simply chose not to be on the floor, you're a dumbass.
Yeah.
You're a dumbass.
I had two bosses at the time of the Misfit show, and I'm like, look, I need to make sure I can get this day off because I'm spending this much on the show.
Yeah.
And honestly, the most I'd ever spent on a concert ticket before the Misfits was $100. I paid $100 to see Jerry Lee Lewis. I paid $100 to see Little Richard. And I paid $100 to see the remaining original Beach Boys get back together.
I saw that. So, did you see it with Brian Wilson, 2012?
Yes, I did.
Me too. Great show.
Yeah. His solo, I've seen Wilson a couple times solo. He puts on a great show.
That was great too. I bet that was great too.
But so anyway, I tell my bosses, I'm like, look, I need you to make sure I'm off this day. And I tell them what I'm spending on the ticket. And my one boss is real careful with his money. And he's just like, you're an idiot for spending that much. And I explained to him what the Misfits meant to me. I'm like, dude, you don't understand. I learned how to play guitar playing along to these songs. I played with one of the guys that was in the band. I used to spend my nights like building a fantasy football team. Like, who would you want in the band if they got back together? And it's happening. My other boss looks at me and he goes, I don't care. You're being stupid. My other boss looks at him and goes, shut up. He looks at me and goes, tell me something, Alex. If you pay for this show, are you going to be able to make your rent? I go, absolutely. He goes, are you going to be able to have food on your table? I go, yes. He goes, are you going to be able to pay your bills and have gas in your car and get to work? I go, yeah. He goes, have a great time.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. And the thing is, would it have been cool to have been backstage and all that jazz? Yeah. But you want to know something? That is a show where I just want to be in the chaos of the human sweat ball. I want
to stand there and revel in it.
You revel in it. You grab a stranger, blah, 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 and sing with them, with your arm around their neck, that sort of thing. It's amazing. And to answer the second part of Wednesday Store's question, I'm not a big Kiss guy. I don't really know very much about Kiss. I know a little bit about Kiss, and they were streaming in. I've heard that what's his face, Eddie Trunk, who I think is kind of a tool, was talking about. He always rails against Kiss because he's such a huge Kiss guy, but he rails against them because of I guess Paul Stanley lip syncs or something.
Wouldn't surprise me.
He's losing his voice, and I don't know. I mean, Kiss is doing whatever, man. Kiss is Kiss. They do their Kiss thing great. I like that song Black Diamond. Yeah. I mean, and I hate the comparisons when people say that the Misfits are the punk rock Kiss. I think that's kind of BS, man. I see why you make that comparison, but I just, the Misfits are the Misfits to me. Like, don't do that. Don't call them the punk rock Kiss. They're not. They're their own thing.
I can see why some people would say that.
Me too.
Number one, with the makeup. Number two, with the merchandising. But show me a band that doesn't want to make money on T-shirts. That's just good
Yeah.
business sense.
Look at the Ramones. The Ramones that's where they made their bread and butter. Hold on. I just want to get through the rest of these comments. So Joe says, that's fair. I'll take that. I don't know. That was into reference to some earlier comment. Winston thinks that Megadeth over Metallica. So sorry, Joe. Looks like you're going to have to argue it out with Winston if you feel like it. Too much junkie business. Glenn agreed when he tipped his hat to that one. Yeah. I guess that's in reference to Johnny Thunders.
Jerry and Johnny.
Yep. Marky played on Project 1950. Yes. And you want to know something? And if anybody has seen my Lodi show, I actually talked very positively about Project 1950, but not as a Misfits record, just as like a Jerry only album doing oldies.
Great. You know, I said the same thing.
Great.
I said, listen, I'm a huge 50s music fan. So, you know, anything like Project 1950, Me First,
yes.
Gimme Gimmes, that's just fun. That's a good time.
Fun.
It's an album where you don't want to skip any tracks because they're all good.
Right.
All that great 50s music
all.
with a distortion pedal.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, whatever. Like, it's just a shame it's not called, like, The Only Ones or Jerry and Marky sing some 50 songs.
Project 1950.
Duh. I mean, honestly, think about how revered, how like ginormous that would be for Jerry Only and Marky Ramone. Like, that would be such a feather in both of their caps as, you know, it's just called Project 1950. It has Jerry Ramone. It has Jerry Only and Marky Ramone. And they do a bunch of 50 songs. They do Misfit songs. They do Ramone songs. It just works on paper so much better than calling it the Misfits.
Well, I mean, like calling it Project 1950 and doing what they did is just great. And then, I mean, it's still great that they did it under the Misfits. The only difference is doing it under the Misfits name leaves them open for people to be like snarky and snide and like
brand confusion.
It's not really the Misfits.
Brand confusion, yes, which is what I discuss all the time on that show. So
if you don't want to listen to it, fine, don't listen to it. You know, you got to bust their chops. They're trying to make a living.
Yeah, this is true.
I'm happy they're doing the reunion because I get to see it.
Hell yeah.
I'm happy they're making money. Like, you know,
most
of those punk bands put out all this great stuff we like. They didn't make a living on it. If they can get a retirement nest egg out of this,
right.
God bless them. Take what you can get and get it, man.
Yeah.
You know, Jerry spent how many years keeping it alive for the fans? Get the reunion money and have a nice... When the time comes and you decide to retire and you can afford to because of these reunions, enjoy it. You earned it, man.
I think they will do it. I think they will do it forever. As long as they can claim. Here's where I think they will stop. When they can't claim the money that they used to claim, when they can't command the guarantees anymore, then they'll put an end to it. But as long as those guarantees keep rolling in, those dudes will never stop playing shows. And you know what? As long as it's like once a year, I think that's great. That's so many bands. There's so many bands who should just be going out once a year and just doing their thing, right?
The more they do, the more fans will actually get to see them. And the more people are going to have those like out-of-body experiences we talked about. And that's great.
Right.
So, you know, as long as they want to do it, keep doing it, man. You know, I love the Misfits music. I love the Samhain music. I love the Danzig music. I'm just happy getting good music.
Yeah, I agree. Hold on. There are so many comments in the chat. Let's get through some of these comments. I love the participation. I'm so glad that people are talking. It makes the show so great. So Winston says he saw Phil Anselmo sing Death Comes Ripping with Danzig. That's interesting. Winston, do you have any YouTube footage of that? I'd love to see a YouTube video of that. Cool. Joe wants to know says that rules, Winston. What year was that? Yeah, we'd like to know, Winston. What year was that? Wednesday says, were the ticket prices reasonable for the reunion?
What's reasonable?
I don't. He's probably speaking about the Misfits. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I think $300 was like the maximum threshold, and it was something that I tolerated twice over. I've seen them it 3 times. I spent $300 3 times over like a 4-year period. or a 3-year period. But I would say that if it was anything more than $300, I'd probably like if it was a $500 ticket. I don't know if I could justify that a second time.
I wouldn't have been able to afford floor tickets for
It
five.
just would have been, it just would have been insane. It would have been too crazy.
What's reasonable? Like,
I don't know.
If you're addicted to drugs, you'll probably like crawl through the mud or do whatever you have to do to get
Great
money.
Great
to
point.
Get it. If you're that big a Misfits fan and you can afford it, you'd probably pay whatever it was.
Well, it took me 6 months to pay off $300. So I guess at the end of the day, if it was a $500 ticket, it just would have taken me more months to do it.
Yeah.
I think I probably would have done it, but I mean, could I keep doing it? Like,
no.
it's not sustainable. And so, is the ticket price a little high? Oh my God, for sure. They probably, if you're really thinking about it, they might have made more money on merch if they had lowered the ticket price. If you really think about it.
Probably. I mean, people have more money to spend, they're going to spend it.
It's more sustainable. So I don't know. Joe says, oh, right. Yes, Joe, we have to talk about, I want to hear Joe's point of view on this. JV Bastard from Mr. Monster. He was at the show. He went to that show with Michael, spent most of the night behind Doyle's cabs. We slipped in the back. Joe, next time you're on Pizza Punk, I want you to tell me the whole story start to finish. I want to hear from his perspective. Because I'm sure he has a great POV being that he went to the show with Michael. Robbie says, even crazier idea, Goolsby, Alex Story, Michael Graves, and Chud in one set. That is really insane when you think about it. Goolsby, Alex Story, Michael Graves, and Chud all played a single set together at a Glenn Danzig show.
Yeah, that's true. I never thought of it that way.
And in Danzig's band, you have Tommy from Prong, you have Johnny from Typo, you have Steve from Sam Hain and Danzig, and you have Glenn. Yeah. Like, it's just what a show! What a show!
I have to sit back and actually think what I've actually seen because I don't connect the dots like that too often.
Right. It really is
mind blowing, though. You're right.
It is mind blowing. Joe says. Okay, so he's finishing. He is sort of telling us the story. But Joe, I want you to give me the full Joe Vasta story experience sometime in the future. He says that he stayed in Guitar World until his spot, and Michael left through the crowd out the front door, and that he stayed. What an interesting perspective. Winston says, I think 2003, it was at the first Blackest of the Black tour around Danzig 7 times. Superjoint and Opeth Open. So he's talking about when Phil did Death Comes Ripping. And that was at a time where Glenn Danzig would occasionally perform a Misfits song. I would say probably the rarest time to hear Danzig do a Misfits song was between 1995 and 2004, right?
That makes sense.
Right? That makes sense. Like, it is super rare to hear Glenn Danzig do a Misfits song in those 9 years. He's doing Misfits songs with the early Danzig lineup and did Misfits songs with Sam Hain. Maybe even 94. No, I want to take that back. Let's say that from 1992 to 2004, it is incredibly rare to hear Glenn Danzig do a Misfits song. Would you agree with that?
That makes sense, that timeline.
Yeah. Joe says, I brought Michael arguably closer to Glenn one other time to his front door, bricks and all. That is another story I want to hear, Joe. That sounds like an incredibly hilarious story. Probably at Danzig's LA house. They're probably touring in LA and went by the brick house, or not the brick house, but the house with the bricks in the front yard. Wednesday says, well, Wednesday, you are really into Kiss. Wednesday says, I read Kiss Charged, but this is not a Misfits show, so we could talk about, this is just a punk show. We're talking about everything. I read that Kiss charged nearly $100 for a stream, and you could only watch it for 3 days or something. Hope this ain't the future. Listen, I got to tell you, check my other video. I'm not going to go into it here because it's too much of a tangent, but I had Dead Geen Richie from the Bloodsucking Zombies from Outer Space. Great guy, great band. They're in Europe and they're a horror punk band, but I think they call themselves Horrorbilly. They have a financial model for distributing music that I think is just really sound. If you have an audience, that follows your stuff. And people, check out that video. It's a really interesting video. And another thing on, not on Kiss. Oh God, I just ran into a pothole. We were talking about Kiss. We were talking about blood-sucking zombies.
The Screams, going to Danzig's house with the bricks.
Yeah, no, it's not coming to me. If I remember, Winston's asking Joe, Phil was sitting on the side stage rolling joints during Glenn's set. That's crazy. Austin says, I don't know if this is an insult or a compliment. Austin says that I am the Eddie Trunk of horror punk. I don't know how to I don't know take that. I did once ask Eddie Trunk speaking of which, this is the perfect time to segue into let's talk about that Chiller Theater, because Eddie Trunk was at that Chiller Theater where they had the Misfits room. And I asked him if he wanted to do, because, as you know, I've been making a Misfits documentary for many years. And that's one of the reasons why I was at that show in particular. And that was actually the day I met Sal B. And I asked Eddie Trunk if he wanted to say, had a couple sound bites about the Misfits. And he's like, I don't listen to the Misfits. I don't really even listen to Danzig. I don't really know much about that stuff. And then I heard Eddie Trunk sort of slamming the Misfits reunion when it first happened. And I just thought, what a jabroni. This guy is just such a friggin' jabroni. I don't like Eddie Trunk. Not a fan.
I used to watch that metal show a lot.
That was an interesting show. The concept was interesting, but he had Glenn Danzig on.
I don't remember that one.
With Bill Ward. Bill Ward from Black Sabbath and Glenn Danzig were on the same show for that metal show.
I remember he had Lita Ford on it. I used to watch whenever.
She was at that Chiller, I think.
Yeah, she was really nice. She was really
nice. Really nice. So what was your experience at the Chiller?
Kind of like my experience in the Undead, man. I was just there as backup. He wanted the band there. We were there. Yeah. Helped them set up, helped them break down. If he needed something, that's what we were there for. I don't really have a lot to say about it. I was there when Doyle gave him the guitar. That was really nice of him.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. He gave him and George was pissed about it.
I'll take your word for it. I don't remember her pissed. I just remember her dropping her drink on it.
She was, right. And she was kind of Looney Tunes all over the place. She was like bipping and bopping around. She was wearing a little like top hat, rubber banded on her head. It was really weird. I remember that. And
listen, we all make fashion choices that don't necessarily work from one point to another.
You're absolutely right. And what was interesting was I remember Mike Hideous was in the room, and it was a little awkward because Mike was there, and I think some of the other guys, there was some contention or controversy as to why he was also in the room with them or something, which I didn't think was very nice. Yeah, I just and I know Paul from Living the American Nightmare was there as well.
Yeah, he was there with Hideous.
Right, he was there with Hideous. And that's another we bumped into each other at the premiere of that as well. Remember when
that old Vaudevillian theater. Yeah, I remember that.
Great theater. Cool. And we all got Living in the American Nightmare DVD goodie bags.
I still have the DVD.
Me too. I think it's worth a lot of money now. Yeah, I don't know. And I remember going back to the Chiller for a second. I remember Doyle, Chud, and Michael taking this like super awkward like family photo together, and like they were all being sort of pressured into doing it. I don't think they wanted to do it.
I don't remember that, but I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, it was weird. And it was just like really, I think that was probably like might be one of the last times those three guys were in a room together. Maybe. Who knows? I know that Graves, maybe I don't think Chud or Doyle, but Graves definitely wanted that to happen again, the whole 95 thing over several times, or at least people in his camp wanted it to happen and were trying desperately to make it happen, and it didn't go down.
I mean, that makes sense. There's
money to be made.
Money in it.
Yeah. for sure.
Listen, everybody wants to make money.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
not surprising.
It's not surprising. And the what else happened? Was that also the chiller that he got married to Jill, or was that the
Yes, that was the same chiller.
That was the same
Because
chiller.
I remember
I was with Dave Street. Dave Street and I were hanging out.
Okay, yeah, that was the chill because I remember during the ceremony I sat next to Michael and Chud.
Oh, really?
So
That's
yeah,
hilarious.
and I think Doyle and George missed the ceremony. I think they ran upstairs to shower and then they came down and missed it. But they came down like right after it was over.
Right. Very convenient. Very convenient.
And I remember how choked up Bobby got when Doyle gave him the guitar. That was pretty cool to see. He got really excited about that.
Yeah, I'm sure he was not expecting it. I think that's really, really generous, generous of Doyle to do that. So he didn't play it live though.
Not to my knowledge, never when I was in the band.
I saw it at his house or at his mom's house, but I never saw him touch it or play it or anything. I think it was more of a trophy sort of situation. Trying to think what else happened at that show. Oh, and he played with the Dead Elvi, I think, or you guys played with the Dead Elvi.
Didn't know. Billy and I didn't play chiller with Bobby ever. If Billy did, it wasn't with me.
You know what? He got up and he sang 18. He sang 18 with the band.
Yeah, he got up there with the Dead Elvi. I remember that.
Right.
But
right. And
we're forgetting Erie Vaughn was there that year too because he walked down the aisle.
Yes, he was. And you know what's funny? How crazy! What a crazy situation that Erie Vaughn is walking her down the aisle and to marry Bobby. And I remember I did not talk or meet Erie, but I just remember walking by him. I just remember how tall that dude is. I was like, wow, that guy is tall. I was in such awe of him.
I had no idea he was going to be there.
Yeah, I think he was in a last-minute addition. And I think Bobby was upset. Who said it? Someone said it about Erie was smoking a cigarette and it made Bobby upset.
Bobby's real sensitive.
Right.
Like anytime we went anywhere, he'd have like a dehumidifier or something. And yeah, Erie lit up in the room and Bobby like bolted so it didn't affect them.
Right.
But I didn't know Erie was going to be there. And the first night we're setting up and he's there with Sal B and they're drinking whiskey. And I was like, yeah, whiskey. I can appreciate that. And Erie just hands me the bottle.
Nice.
And I got to take a pull and I'm sitting there with Sal and Erie and I'm just thinking to myself, you are sharing whiskey from the bottle with the bass player from Sam Hain and Danzig. Take a moment to appreciate this because high school you would never believe it.
Yeah. It's fun. It's fun to geek out over stuff like that. Hold on. I'm going to get some more of these comments. Rue says, hold on. We got a bunch more comments. Rue says he spent $450 for the seat I only used for 5 minutes. Luckily, I befriended Jerry's nephew at the bar and wound up with floor passes. Rue, nice. That is a great night. And I'm super stoked for you that was your experience. Super stoked. That's awesome. Truly awesome. Robbie Bloodshed stumped the trunk. I guess that's meaning that Robbie Bloodshed stumped Eddie Trunk one day. I don't know. Winston says maybe footage is out there. I haven't seen it. It was in Mesa, Arizona at the Mesa Amphitheater regarding Phil Ansamo and Glenn Danzig doing Death Comes Ripping. Joe says, I believe that is the only show where Goolsby and Alex were common in that band. That is the whole story. So yeah, he's saying that Goolsby and Alex that was the only time that they shared a show in that lineup. And I don't know if that's true.
I think Joe's right. I don't think
it was real quick, right?
Alex was in Doyle or Gorgeous Frankenstein or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
When they were in the band, I think that's the only time they shared the stage because I know when Goolsby was in the band, it was a 3-piece. It was Doyle, Goolsby, and Chuck. Well, first it was Doyle, Goolsby, and Stripes from Blitzkid.
Right. That's right. Stripes was the band for a while. Yep.
Then the tour, we played with them in Philly at the New Alhambra Arena in Zombie Mafia. And
Yeah.
that tour, it was Goolsby, Doyle, and Chud, and then George was up there. So I think by the time
Goolsby's got his headset trying to sing.
The headset. I'm pretty sure by the time Alex was in the band, Goolsby was out.
Right. That makes sense. And that's really when the band kind of turns to Doyle.
Yeah.
When Alex is in the band and, he's not tethered to an instrument, and they really have the formation that, Doyle is now, I guess, for the most part, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as I know, they've always been, ever since Alex joined the band, they've always had a 4-piece lineup.
Right.
Like the bass player, drummer, Doyle, and vocalist.
Robbie says, I was backstage at that. I didn't know that, Robbie. Why didn't you tell me that? Robbie was backstage at the Graves Danzig show thanks to Sal B. Weird vibes in that gorgeous Frankenstein dressing room. Ooh. Do tell, Robbie. Do tell, either on air or off. Ooh. Joe says, yeah, pretty sure that was Goolsby's last gorgeous Frankenstein show. So there you go.
That's I think Joe's right. That sounds, I mean, man, what a way to go out, though.
Yeah, that's a great way to finish it up with a 3/4 M95 reunion. I mean, getting to be Jerry only for the Misfits 95 reunion. That's pretty cool. Robbie says, I never felt more awkward in my life until at that chiller when George asked me to take a picture of her and Doyle tonguing. Oh my God. Oh my Lord. That
sounds about right.
That sounds like a crazy scenario. You know what's funny? I did the Doyle episode of Rock and Roll Cooking with Sal B, which really has its genesis at that chiller. And the thing that people kept mentioning in the comments that I never noticed when I was filming the episode, when I was filming the interview, is every time Doyle takes a bite of this pasta, Doyle has a ginormous mouth. And every time he takes a bite of this pasta, he doesn't swallow. He just puts the pasta in his mouth, careful not to get his makeup messed up, and then just keeps talking. And it's like, dude, you just put a whole fucking thing of pasta in your mouth. He's like such a beast of a person that he doesn't even
takes talent.
He doesn't have to chew his pasta. He just it's like this. And then he's just like talking. It's just really crazy. Really, really crazy. Austin Smith is asking, Jeff, any chance of getting Mike Hideous on the show? Austin, I actually messaged him. We hadn't spoken in a while, and I was like, hey, man, you want to come on the show? He said yes. Haven't scheduled anything yet. Usually I don't like talking about that stuff until I have it locked in, but, we'll see. Hopefully I'd like to get Mike has a new project out, and I believe he is in the process of regaining control of living the American nightmare, and I'm very happy for him. And I hope that he gets to do whatever he initially wanted to do with said project. So good for Mike Hideous on that regard. Austin says, Robbie Bloodshed asked Eddie Trunk to name 3 Misfits covers Metallica did, and Eddie Trunk could only name 1 or 2. So Robbie Bloodshed stumped the Trunk. Is that a feature on the show?
That was something on that metal show. They used to have like audience members go on and ask Eddie questions, and if he got them wrong, they'd get like a prize.
Interesting. Winston asks, why was Goolsby not the singer of Doyle? So a couple of things. One, I believe that Goolsby was always just the singer of Gorgeous Frankenstein. The band really, I guess it's the same band, but it really sort of changes into a different band. Doyle is a different band from Gorgeous Frankenstein, even though it carried over some of the personnel. It's a different formation. They have a front man in Alex's story. Goolsby is kind of a front man, but he's also playing bass as they're a 3-piece. And they essentially become a 4-piece with Alex's story. It's kind of like a whole shifting. And plus, Doyle and George broke up. And so Doyle, I've heard many different people take credit for this. But Doyle smartly is not a word, in a smart, what am I trying to say here, Alex? In a
clever move.
In a wise decision, in a clever move, whatever. Why am I making such a big deal of this? In a clever stroke of genius, in a genius. God, I can't get past it. Doyle made the very wise decision to change the name to Doyle, and now he never has to worry about who owns the rights to the band or anything, because Doyle is Doyle. It's a smart move. Call it Doyle.
Plus, it's a lot less letters on the T-shirts. They're probably cheaper to make that way.
Right. And also, if you think about it, he's at this time, he's doing shows with Danzig and Doyle.
Yeah.
And so it probably worked for marketing. It's like a weird brand confusion where nobody even knows that Doyle is a part of Gorgeous Frankenstein. It's like, huh? It's like you either change your name to Frankenstein, which also would have been a very smart move. I believe there's a band called Frankenstein, but I think Doyle could have just changed his name to Frankenstein. That would have been a really cool, interesting idea. He comes out of the show, like someone flips a switch, Alex Story flips a switch, and Doyle, there's electricity, and Doyle comes out of a coffin and starts playing his songs. Frankenstein. That makes sense. Drop the Gorgeous.
They did that. The Dead Boys were original when they were in Cleveland.
Right. In 1975. They were called.
Yeah,
and
did you ever read Cheetah's book?
I have never read Cheetah's book, but I have hung out with Jimmy Zero backstage at the Only Dead Boys reunion in 2005 with all the members. Jeff Magnum.
Yeah. Well, hold on. Cool. Now you said in Cleveland, right? Because they also did the Save CBGB shows too.
That's well, no, not the one in Cleveland. I was at CBGB's.
Okay. I didn't that's one of the CB's reunion things I missed. I wish I'd gone to. I saw a bunch of shows there, but I didn't get to that one.
I reckon you know what's funny? Yeah, go ahead. What?
My first Undead show. First time I was playing a bass was with the Bullies, and I forget who else was on the bill, but Jeff Magnum was at the show.
Right. Yeah. Jeff Magnum was always doing stuff with the Bullies. I'm not a big fan of the Bullies. I helped Peter Crowley put on those Max's Kansas City reunions in 2010. Okay. So the thing that you played, I was like a assistant to the organizer, promoter, whatever you want to call it. And I remember the Bullies were real dicks. They really are bullies. They're kind of like, I don't know. I thought they're kind of foolish. And their big claim was associating with Marky Ramone. I don't know. I just feel like they're kind of and Jeff Magnum. Jeff Magnum would do Sonic Reducer.
Yeah.
Them and
Jeff didn't play with them the night I played. What I played wasn't one of the Max's reunions. When I played with them, it was some small bar in New York, but it was with the Bullies on the bill, and I just remember Jeff was there. I'm like, okay, this is one of the Dead Boys. This is really cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. And if you're friends with Jeff on Facebook, he has a bunch of videos of him playing bass to songs, and he does his bass playing. And you'd appreciate this as a bass player. The way that he plays, he is a phenomenal bass player. Number one.
Oh yeah.
And two, the stuff that he's doing on "I Won't Look Back." I don't know if you're familiar with that song.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, it is. That bass part is like I literally must have watched that video 20, 30 times. Just in all, again, baseball music is my baseball. Just watching this guy, just the strumming technique for playing. He's playing it like a guitar player. He's playing the bass like a guitar player. And he's so good. He's not cheating. He's not doing any, not doing any like energy conservation things. He's like really sort of just
he doesn't get enough credit.
He does not get enough credit for what he's done. So there's that. But in terms of, I just think that it would have made sense for Doyle just to call, if you're changing the band, just call yourself Frankenstein, or, call yourself Doyle. But if you're not going to call yourself Doyle, or if George splits and she owns half the name, because she kind of owns half the band, call yourself Frankenstein. Call it a day.
That works.
That would have been kind of interesting. I think that would have worked. Joe says a lot of that show's plans were confusing to seemingly all internally. If not mistaken, it was the day after Xmas. So he's saying the show happened the day after Christmas. I know that Joe was made privy to some of those details, and as was I. We understand that it was a little Yeah, there was definitely some chaos with that at that
I
show.
don't know if that one was the day after Christmas. It might have been really close to Christmas, because I know for a fact the one that was the day after Christmas was the show I took Dave, and that was the night I met like all the other guys that wound up being in the zombie mafia. It was
Interesting.
also the only time I saw Danzig with Kenny Hickey on guitar.
Right,
And I
from
know,
Typo.
yeah, and I know when the Doyle Graves Goolsby Chud thing,
That was 2009. That I
that
remember.
show was with Tommy Victor on guitar. So
So was that
unless
2009
I don't know the dates,
or
but
was
unless
it
he did, I don't think he did two shows at Starland the day after Christmas. But I
that would be
might be wrong,
interesting if he did.
and it might have been around that time because it makes sense to be around that time because he was probably home visiting his mom or something for the
Joe
holidays.
says Joe says that no one in Gorgeous Frankenstein was really a brief of the details of that show, and that he believes even Goolsby was rather surprised that Alex was there. Interesting. Joe goes on to say there was no rehearsal before it. Michael knew nothing more than that he was invited to come down and jam, and that he was on the list. So Doyle probably put Michael on the list. Danzig is probably not reviewing the guest list. So how would Danzig know? Graves is keeping a low. Graves was probably keeping a low profile, right? He says, I believe there was only one brief phone call in planning it. So there you go. And Robbie says, Jeff, Alex's favorite guitarist is Rick. Does Alex know about my interaction with Agnew? I don't, probably not, but thanks for the great story. I didn't know that. So Rick Agnew is your favorite guitarist.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, Rick Agnew is the reason I learned how to play the bass and the drums. Like I really learned. Like I started playing guitar in seventh grade, and that was
Yeah.
my first instrument. And I listened to like all your stereotypical pop punk stuff. And my
Mm-hmm.
father's coworker knew that I was listening to that. He goes, "I'm going to make him some CDs. So here's some real punk rock." So he makes me these mixed CDs with the Stooges.
Yeah.
The Dickies were on it, the Ramones, and Social Distortion. And I really took to the Social Distortion stuff. So I started looking up old, Orange County bands like Agent Orange, The Adolescents, TSOL. And I really took to The Adolescents. So,
All right. I'm trying to
yep.
find something right now for you. Let me see if I can find it before I start telling you the story, because it'll make it just that much sweeter.
You
And
ever
so,
been to Vintage Vinyl in Woodbridge, the record store?
no.
It's a great record store. They've got a ton of cool stuff. So I'm like 16 maybe, and I'm in there one day and I see this CD, Rick Agnew, All by Myself. And
Mm. Oh, I know
I'm a
that. I
nerd.
have that. I
I
have that.
don't I don't like downloads. I like having the physical media because I
Mm-hmm.
like going through the liner notes. So I
Mm-hmm.
see this and I go, okay, Rick, I know Rick played in the Adolescents. I know he wrote a good chunk of the Blue Album. I'm going to pick this up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at the liner notes and I see, vocals, guitar, bass, drums, all Rick Agnew. And
All by himself.
I knew people played like multiple instruments, but I'd never had the idea in my head, like, someone could go in and do like the first Foo Fighters album or All by Myself, where one guy does
Right.
everything. And I was like, okay, this is really cool. His
Mm-hmm.
music's really good. I got to learn how to play bass and drums. I can't sing. I have a terrible singing voice. But if I can't find a band, maybe I can like find a singer at the very least and still be able to do like I wanted to do what Rick does. I still do. All my
Well,
guitar
what's
playing, I
stopping
want.
you?
Hmm?
What's stopping you?
Well, nothing really. The fact that I don't have to. I play in two bands with a bunch of really great musicians. Like
Right.
I'm a good drummer, but I'm nowhere near like Mark or Alex, the guys I play with. I don't
Mm-hmm.
have to do it all, and I'm happy playing with those guys. but that's why I picked up drumsticks. That's why I learned how to play the bass. I've always said if I'm in bands, I'll say to my bandmate, like, okay, you do the Rick Agnew part for this one, I'll do the Frank Agnew part for this one, because that's what I like.
Frank used to be in TSOL, which I did not know. It
yes,
blew my mind.
He played live with them, and then after the tour, they didn't keep him on because they decided to go for a keyboard-driven sound. But if you pick up, or if you already have,
and Greg Kruin,
Keen,
took
but
over.
If you have the Trigger Complex album,
do I have the Trigger Complex album? I have it on vinyl with the T-shirt combo. I have the split, the red and clear with the black splatter. That record is a masterpiece. I love.
So then Frank Agnew's on it, right?
I did not know that Frank played on it. That's awesome.
Frank's
what did he play? What did he play on that? What songs did he play? On the whole thing?
I don't know how much of it, but I know he's on that album on guitar.
That is awesome and makes me really happy, and I love that record to death. I'm a huge TSOL fan. That's a whole nother rabbit hole. But what I'm trying to find for you is I'm trying to find my interaction with Rick Agnew, which Robbie actually hung out with Rick Agnew.
Yeah. He gets plenty of mileage telling me that.
Yeah, he spent time with him while he was on tour or something.
I mean, to be fair, he did get me an autograph. He brought it back for me, which was very sweet of him.
That's really nice. That is a nice thing to do. But what I'm trying to do is, so I made. I'm also a feature-length filmmaker. That's what I do.
Right.
In addition to all this stuff, I'm a filmmaker. So I made a film called Romeo's Distress. If you're a Rick fan the way that you say you are, then you know that Rick also played in another little band called Christian Death.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. Okay, I actually saw him once. He was in 45 Grave, and they played
nice.
One of the CBGB shows was
nice.
Channel 3, 45 Grave, DI, the Circle Jerks, and the Adolescents. So I saw him at that show.
California lineup. Oh my Lord.
Yeah. And I remember I was right in front of him when he was on stage. You better believe I wasn't missing the guitar lesson.
So sorry, go ahead. Finish what you were saying.
And the only other thing I really remember from that show was Casey Royer from DI and the Adolescents was crowd surfing, and he landed on a beer bottle and broke it. So I was like, well, I'm staying out of the slam pit tonight because I don't want to fall on
that. So I can't find it. I was just looking for it right now. But basically one day out of the blue, Rick Agnew just like messages me online, and he's like, hey, fuck stick. He's like super fucking mad at me. And he's like cursing at me and everything. He's super mad that I named my film Romeo's Distress. And I guess he thought that I needed to like license it from him or something. I was just like, dude, I was like, oh my God, you're Rick Agnew. I'm like, this is so
yelling
cool.
At me.
That's exactly what it was. He's yelling at me, and I'm just like, it was like, it was an inbox message. And I'm just like, I have it screenshotted somewhere because I was so like the way that you were geeking. I was geeking out because I'm like, the dude from the band who wrote the song is actually, because I named it in honor of this Christian Death song that I love to death, even with its questionable lyrics. Freaking here he's yelling at me, and then the weirdest thing, like a month goes by. And then he apologizes to me and says, I'm so sorry. I thought you were licensing the song. I thought you were using the song without licensing it for me. Because I'm going, hey, dude, I want to license the track like for the movie. Like that was my plan at the time. And he actually apologized and said he confused me with another movie, which is called Little Sister or Little Angel, which uses the track. And then he never got paid for it or something. But it was just funny that I was just weird that like here I am using the name of the song, and then the guy that's the amazing thing about the internet is that like when the thing is small enough, when the world is small enough, that like the person who's affiliated with the thing will you can interact with them, or they can
Yeah.
seek you out, or some sort of weird. So I thought it was really funny that he was just super mad about the use of that name, and then like he was like totally cool about it, and it was over it. I just thought that was really funny, and that's
It
my
is.
interaction with Rick Agnew. I know it's like kind of overblown, all that
No,
explanation.
listen, what's funny is I had no idea he was in 45 Grave when I went to that show. Like,
Oh, interesting. Because he's not really
so
in the band. He just probably was playing guitar. He's probably
yeah,
filling
he
in.
was playing guitar, and I get there, and it's before the show, and everybody's hanging out in front of the club, and the Adolescents had put out a DVD in the early 2000s when he was still in the band, Alive at the House of Blues one, and I'm hanging out outside with my friend, and I'm looking, and I'm like, that guy looks a lot like Rick Agnew, but I know he's not playing in the Adolescents. I know he's not in
Right.
DI. So I get inside, and I'm up by the merch, and there's someone selling like Rick Agnew shirts. I'm like, and I asked him, I'm like, is Rick playing tonight? And I just don't know it. And like, oh yeah, he's playing guitar in 45 Grave. And
So great.
I was like, well, this is officially the best night of my life.
Yeah,
I can
dude.
take this as a win.
I would say that's a win for sure.
That was a killer lineup that night.
So to continue the thread, Joe, in between Robbie's comment, Joe initially said there was no rehearsal before this reunion show. Michael knew nothing more of it. He was invited to come down and jam, and that he was on the list. I believe there was only one brief phone call, and then he follows it up with, but if there was as much of a handshake between those dudes, you saw it on stage. I guess meaning that there was no love lost between those guys being on stage together. They it was a very awkward or strange situation. Who knows?
I mean, if it was, kudos to them for doing it. They didn't have to do that, and they still chose to do it. So
Right.
that's pretty cool of them.
Joe says it was between Xmas and New Year's Eve. Gotham Road played New Year's Eve that year, and I know for sure we rehearsed the night before the gig as well. So I know it was definitely 2009. So it was 2009 between Xmas and New Year's Eve. Maybe it was December 26th, two nights in a row. Who knows?
I just know for a fact the first time, because it was the first time I saw Danzig, was the time I took Dave, and it was definitely the day after Christmas, and
Gotcha.
it definitely wasn't the show with Michael, because the first time I saw Danzig, Kenny Hickey was on guitar, and I know it was Tommy on guitar for the show that Michael did with Doyle and Chud and Goolsby.
Lastly, Joe says the audience saw 100% of the interaction between Alex, Ghouls, Chud, Doyle, and Michael that night, which is pretty interesting. So there was no backstage interaction between any of these individuals. They all hopped on stage, did their thing, and that was that, I guess, according to this comment that Joe made.
I've heard that before.
But we know that Doyle and Chud definitely continued on, at least for a few more years, until Chud left Doyle in the lurch right before tour. Right. And then Teeny from
Anthony Busso from TSOL.
Yes, from TSOL, who I had seen. I've never missed Yes, and I've never missed an East Coast TSOL show. So I'd seen him with TSOL at CBGBs. I'm sorry?
I saw them at Asbury Lanes with Tiny.
So just a correction, I've never missed them when they're on the East Coast. I didn't go to every single East Coast date, but I've just never missed a tour. And man, he was such a solid. I like Anthony, the new guy. They have another guy named Anthony in the band, but
Anthony Val Hernandez. Yeah, he's a good drummer.
Great drummer, and he did a great job. I saw him with the Souls, but Tiny was great too, man. Tiny was such a solid drummer for them.
Oh my God, it was like a cannon behind them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he held it home. Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I saw them at the Lanes, and Tiny was on drums, and it was great because he could actually answer a question for me. I saw Tiny twice with the Dickies, once at the original Fiend Fest and once at a Joey Ramone Bash. and I had caught a drumstick from Tiny when he threw it out at the Joey Bash, but I'd caught another one that night, and I had them, and I had no idea whose was whose. So the night he played with TSOL, I was like, hey, I need to ask you a question. You got to settle this for me. What kind of drumsticks were you using when you were in the Dickies? He was like, oh, that's easy. I was using these. So I was like, all right, cool. He goes, why? Because I caught one, but I caught one from someone else, and I don't know whose is whose. He's like, oh, yeah, mine was definitely this one. And then at the end of the night, when the set was done, he gave me one of the ones he used with TSOL. So I have a matching pair from Tiny. But he was a cannon with them, man. They were so powerful when he was on drums.
Powerful drummer. And you want to know something? He probably could have held his own on doing those Misfits tracks, but all by himself, he would have just crushed doing Misfits songs.
Probably. I mean, he did them with Doyle. He did that tour that Chud dropped off of.
Right. I was at the third show when we did that interview, and friggin' Doyle and Chud. It's me, Doyle, and Chud all sitting. No, me, Doyle, and Sal all sitting on a couch. They just did a sound check, and I wasn't saying anything. I just was there as Sal's friend. But I'm just sitting there watching Doyle and Sal talk about Chud leaving him in the lurch, and how he was so grateful to have Tiny there and come in. And he did. Listen, he held his own for literally learning those songs in 48 hours. Maybe.
I mean, Tiny's a pro. He played in Head P, TSOL, the Dickies.
Yes.
I think last I heard he was doing Bullet Boys before COVID hit, I think.
I don't know. I do know that I think it's a shame that he left TSOL because he was just so stable for that. He stabilized the lineup for so many years, and it's a shame they couldn't see eye to eye or whatever happened.
Yeah.
It just really is a bummer because I just really liked him. But I'm glad that they got Anthony. Anthony's great. Yeah. I think he's done a bunch of singles with them now.
We were supposed to play with them before COVID hit. Zombie Mafia was booked.
Oh, really?
Ballroom with Black Flag, TSOL,
right.
the Dickies,
I was going to go to the New York date. I was going to go to the New York date.
And then COVID hit, and that was that. I mean, we've played with the Dickies and TSOL before. Not that it wouldn't have been great to do it again.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I was really excited about the Black Flag aspect just because I haven't played with them. I haven't seen them. Although I did see
Flag.
Yeah. Well,
Flag.
Yeah.
Flag.
No kidding.
Flag.
My first real punk concert. I'm not talking like pop punk stuff. I was in Philadelphia, checking out the college I went to, and it was at the Theater of Living Arts. I saw a Rollins band doing a set of exclusively Black Flag songs. It was a West Memphis 3 benefit.
Right.
And then the opening act was Keith Morris with Rollins band doing nothing but Black Flag songs from his era. That was awesome.
That is awesome.
But yeah, no, you'll get no argument from me on the whole Black Flag thing.
I saw Flag with TSOL at Irving Plaza.
That's a show.
And Jerry Only was there in full Jerry Only regalia because of Dez.
That's so cool. Funny. You know, I've caught a lot of like reunion shows of like 80s bands. The one thing two things I'm really bummed I didn't get to see are I didn't get to see the Dead Boys and I didn't get to see Flag. So
Flag, I'm sure Flag will come around again.
I hope so.
And again, I could literally just sit. I've spoken about this before. I could sit and watch Bill Stevenson talk about power drummers. Just if you read about
so easy,
because you know what he's doing. I just study him on YouTube. You know what he's doing? All of his hitting, all of the power comes from his wrist. Yeah. He's not really moving his arms.
No, he's got the cymbals all lined up, so it's real minimal movement.
Right, and that's how he conserves energy. So his power is not coming from flailing his arms.
No,
his power is just from doing it in his wrist. And so he probably, if given the opportunity to like prepare for the set, he probably could give Marky Ramone a run, at least make him sweat a little bit on some of those Ramones. I don't think anybody could take out Marky Ramone doing Ramone songs, but he could. I mean, that guy's got the it's probably like ingrained in his muscle memory but I would imagine that Bill Stevenson would make him sweat a little bit just from
Probably.
his ability with those that wrist action is just unbelievable.
If anybody, well, I'll put it this way: if anybody could give Marky a run for his money or make him sweat, it's Bill.
Yeah, man. Because Black Flag, just that creepy crawl, friggin' Greg, just making them do the sludge, and just getting the power, just power hitting. I don't know, just kind of crazy. Friggin' Austin Smith wants my Chud impression, which is really a ripoff of hearing the Blitzkid guys do it. And again, I've spent a lot of time around Chud, but it's like me doing an impression of those guys doing the impression. And really, I think that, as I say this every episode, I think Loki does the best Chud.
Loki does a very good Chud.
Because just like, but it's just like, this Chud's just like, bro, oh, come on, bro. Or, just that's
Rob's bass player Jesse does a good one too.
Oh yeah, I'd like to see that sometime. I bet it's really great. It's fun. It's fun doing impressions of that guy. He's almost as much cartoon as he is a human being. Joe says, continuing Joe's thread, there wasn't even an opportunity for it to be awkward regarding Alex Story, Goolsby, Chud, and Doyle. They potentially never spoke a word to one another that wasn't on stage, spare for the brief initial phone call between Graves and Doyle. So there you have it. And then what is interesting is, Goolsby went on to play. He went on to play bass for all three of those guys. Or had at one point or another. And Alex and Doyle I guess they've been playing together for almost 11, 12 years now.
Has it been that long? Man.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Time flies.
Joe says that the Chud impression is all in the shoulders. I think he's talking about with Loki. Loki just goes, he's like, it's just so funny, man. It's just so funny.
I always said I wish I had joined X-Ward because I had the greatest stupid pun band name ever.
What was it? What would it have been? What, just Zombie Alex?
I could have been Medic Al Waste.
Medical waste.
How great of a stupid pun is that, huh? That would have been perfect.
That would have been good. I'm sure that would have gotten a chuckle out of Chud just going. I mean, I can't even do it anymore. It's like I get put on the spot. I don't have it within me to even do it anymore. Another time we crossed paths, you were at Ghouls Night Out X. Remember? You did that interview.
And thank you. I did want to say thank you. I did manage to track down that link you told me about with the footage. And
you mean the thing that someone had hacked from me?
Yeah, I do appreciate it.
I'm pissed that it got out. I don't know. Like, I tried reporting and flagging it. It really makes me mad.
Well, for what it's worth, number one, it wasn't me. Number two, I'm very flattered how much of my footage made it into it. And number three, I want to personally thank you for not making me look or sound stupid.
Oh my God, I thought you spoke so intelligently.
Well, I appreciate you making me not come off like a goon.
No.
But yeah, I was in the first two bands that played Ghouls Night Out X. So yeah, I was there.
Yeah, that was a great show. It was a fun show.
Yes, it was.
Fun time. And then I'm trying to think if there's any other times where we had crossed. I mean, I saw you at were you at the Mr. Monster at Clash Bar?
Yes, I was there. I don't know if I didn't see you there, but I was at the Clash Bar. Yeah, I was.
Maybe I left early. I left halfway through the set.
I don't know. I didn't run into you because Jeff Grun was nice enough to give me the bass and let me play "Guaranteed to Bleed" with them, which was my favorite Mr. Monster song. But I don't think I saw you that night.
Nice. I was with Raimi Stein.
Yeah, I know who he is. I don't think I've ever formally met Raimi, but I know who he is.
He's a great guy.
I saw him, but I don't think I saw you.
I was just
Weird.
floating around, walking around, yada yada yada, just sort of out there in the ether. It was a great show. It was I was glad to see some of it. A lot of people in that room that night. That was a lot of people in that Clash bar,
Yeah,
which I believe is closed down right
it is.
now.
Yeah, I actually
That's a
live.
shame.
I'm like a 5 minute drive, 10 minute walk from where Clash Bar was. I used to walk there, but yeah, it's gone.
It was a great place. Some people have made their whole careers there, So
It was an interesting room. I liked the place. I just
well,
always
it
hated
had a pole going down the middle,
right
which
in front of
was
the
stupid.
stage. That used
I
to
hated
drive me
that.
nuts.
Yeah, it
I mean,
drives
it
me
was a
nuts too.
cool room, and it got
Yeah,
points for having that really cool New York Dolls poster with Jerry Nolan's drums on display.
I don't know if I
But I was
saw
like,
where was that located. I don't even remember.
that was if you're facing the stage and you're in that main area where the stage was,
Yeah,
uh upper, like if you're looking at the stage like a watch and the stage is 12, the
yeah.
poster was like between 1 and 2. It was like in that upper
Huh.
right hand corner area.
Yeah, it's just a shame that it's gone, man.
Yeah,
I'm
cool
really,
place,
really bummed.
just really weird design. I'm like, who puts a pole right in front of a stage?
I think that
But
being at that impromptu Jason Trioxa Memorial concert was a great last show to go to that place and hang out with. Like it was like just a smorgasbord of people that I had met over the years and just had known from various different communities, and just hanging out and shooting the shit with everybody. It was a lot of fun, truly.
I mean, it would have been. See, to me, I get what you're saying. Um, I would have considered it fun if I was there for any other reason.
Yes, yes, yes. It was. It was. You're absolutely right, and it was a very somber. I did not go to any of the other things because, again, I was not. Jason and I were not cool when he passed away, and him and I had a falling out, and I just felt like kind of it was a little disingenuous. But I thought that the nice thing to do would just be to pay my respects at that show,
Sure.
which is what I did. So I was glad to be there in his in honor of his memory. And Robbie's saying that we actually had crossed paths at the Robbie Bloodshed Zombie Mafia Blitzkid show, where Blitzkid didn't play. Do you remember this? This must have been November of 2011. This is when I first met Robbie, actually.
Was that
When he was a young
the
whippersnapper.
one in Trenton? The only show I
Yes.
remember, I didn't
Yes.
remember. Rob, you got to forgive me. I'm old. I'm senile. I don't remember that you were on the bill. I'll take you for your word for it. I just remember that we got down there and we were all set, and then Blitzkid wasn't playing. I think Goolsby got into it with their sound guy, and they left. All I remember is the venue gave us their food. We got paid and we got their food. That's literally all I
So
remember.
what I remember from my POV, Goolsby actually explained the whole thing to me, and I forgot. When I was on tour with him, I think or before I had gone on tour with him, he actually told me what had happened, and I don't remember. But basically, they had come in for a show. The silent horror guys were backing them up at the time. Two
Yeah,
guys,
yeah.
silent horror, and they flew in. That was actually I didn't really meet Tracy. That was the first time Tracy and I were at the same place. And what had happened? Yes, it was something surrounding their food. Maybe there was something weird, and yeah, they were being treated. Blitzkid were being treated very poorly, and they had
Yeah, I
just
remember
been
that.
on the road. Yeah, they were weary from the road or something, and maybe they wanted to eat or something, or I forget, something happened around that. It was around being treated like dog crap. And so they were like, you know what? We're not even going to play the show. Screw you. And they bounced. And I was there because I did some video for Robbie's set that night, but also um, the way I had met Goolsby in the first place was he did an interview for my Misfits documentary, and I needed him to sign a release. And so I came down to the show for him to sign. And it was funny. I didn't know his real name. I think maybe I knew his name was Steve, but he's like signed his name Steve Matthews. I was like, wow, it's Steve Matthews. That's funny. Because you just think he's Argyle Goolsby.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it was just it was a Blitzkid show where Blitzkid didn't end up playing. They didn't end up playing. But I guess you were there. We were both there.
Yeah, I just remember. I thought it was like. I just remember him leaving and almost getting into it with the sound guy at the door.
He was mad. He was really mad. And the three guys just followed him right into the box truck. He signed my release and off they went to wherever the next show was. And that was it. That was the band was still, I don't think the band had not announced that they were going to be breaking up yet.
No, not at that point.
Right. It was right before that. It was November, because I think it was February that they announced that. So it was like very, very close together. So I guess apparently we had met then too. And Robbie confirms that was Trenton, New Jersey. And Joe says, Murdergram's computer get hacked as often as my gear gets jacked. Joe, we should put that on a bumper sticker, much like Stop Making Fun of Danzig. Joe and Goolsby came to my house once to do an interview, Goolsby's interview for the Blitzkid thing, and Joe had these incredible bumper stickers that were like, you put under a stop sign, and it just says "Making Fun of Danzig." So he put it. The sticker is gone, but the mark is still there whenever I drive through that, because it's right by my house where I now live. But I always think of that memory when I see that stop sign, and yeah, it was just kind of funny, but we should put that on a bumper sticker. Yeah, it's very sad. Someone had access to my computer and stole a whole ton of my files without my consent. And I looked into all sorts of options. I don't know what to do. It's just stuff is out in the ether. It's unfortunate, real tragic, and I don't know what much I can do about it.
That's lame.
Yeah, it's just really lame, and they're like, people can see all sorts of stuff that I don't want anybody to see, and it's just a shame. And that's all I have to say about that. A real tragedy, if you ask me. A real tragedy. Joe says that Clash Bar jam we did was 100% promoted word of mouth in the parking lot after Jason's funeral. Not even everyone who played that night knew we were doing it. So it was a very impromptu show, and it really had a feel. I believe you can find video footage of it.
It's up on YouTube. Some of the footage is.
Yeah, some of the footage is up on YouTube. And it was just a really nice way for a community that, holds Mr. Monster as dear as they do, to sort of see off this guy, Jason, this musician that impacted so many people. So I think that was pretty cool. I think that's pretty nice.
I mean, like I said, if I had been up there for any other reason, I've been like, this is great. I love Mr. Monster's stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Guaranteed to Bleed was my favorite song.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Grun was gracious enough to let me borrow the bass and play it. I'm up there with the guys that played it. If I had been there for like any other reason, I would have been happy as a pig in slop. But, I was grateful to do it. Jason and his music meant a lot to me. It was nice to be able to do that as a send-off. I just can't use the word fun. That just doesn't feel right.
I understand. I totally understand. It was in that way, it's bittersweet for you, as it should be. And I can totally understand that for anybody who was, a fan of Jason's and Jason's loved ones. And I think I remember, we were all shooting the shit outside. It was me, you, Paul Klein. I think Robbie was there. And I think you were talking actually about how, no, I definitely saw you there, because we were all talking outside, and you were talking about how you knew that album top to bottom. That's how I know.
Drums. Yeah.
Was it drums?
Yeah.
You told me we were all standing in a circle, and Paul Klein, Paul Lifeless was there.
Yeah.
And you were talking with him, and Paul was just about to become a barber. He was training to be a barber. Now he's very
he cut my hair.
Oh, did he? Oh, that's great.
Yeah. He came over to my apartment. He was looking for test dummies. I'm like, hey, come on over, cut my
The
hair. It's cool.
nicest man that ever walked the face
Oh,
of the planet.
absolutely, and one of the best drummers.
Oh, phenomenal drummer. And yeah. So we were all standing in a circle outside because after a while, it was I don't think the show had started yet, but I mean,
Maybe
there were
not.
so many. Emilio was there because Emilio
Yeah.
had from Funeral, Emilio from Stellar Corpses. Tracy was there. Robbie was there. Johnny B. Morbid came out.
Yeah, Carmen was there.
Loki was there.
Yeah.
It was just a lot. There were so many people that all showed up at the same time, and I just what a nice not nice a meaningful, let's call it a
Send off. Yeah.
meaningful send off, and eventually I guess it morphed into what Joe and Sean ended up doing. As I would learn, I listened to I loved listening to Loki's show. He stopped doing it. Loki has stopped doing
it.
Show,
I
but
used to watch it a lot too. I haven't.
It was great for my walk. Dude, I loved hearing Joe and Loki just like shoot the shit. I'd like listen to them on my walk and like hear them talking about stuff. I was like, and then just Loki is Loki. Where are you, man? Get back on it. Get back
He's
on
busy.
the
See, I like listening and hearing all about Mr. Monster because I just want to learn everything I can. It's true. I do know Over Your Dead Body on the guitar. Probably not all the intricacies on the bass parts, but I mean I could do the bare bones. But yeah, I used to put on when I would drum at my parents' house. I used to put on Over Your Dead Body and just go through the whole album on the drums.
Wow. See, I'll be completely transparent and brutally honest. Mr. Monster, there's like a handful of songs that I really truly appreciate, and the rest of it just doesn't connect with me in that kind of way. I really
different
like
strokes for different folks.
Exactly, and I understand its reverence, and I know a lot of the guys from Mr. Monster, and but it's just not the songs that I really love, truly like appreciate. I like Little Frankenstein. I love Tina and Freddie, obviously. I like Over Your Dead Body. I like Gore Whore. I like I like Prom Night. Prom Night's a great song. What else? I mean, in another lifetime, if I had a small label, I would put out those songs on an EP. You know what I mean? Like a collection of songs. Like if I was doing small run presses of songs that I really appreciate, there's like a bunch of things I would do. That would be one of the things because I feel like it would be a really cool release. That would be one thing I would do. I think it would be really, really killer.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, those are really. I mean, they don't really. There's a Skeleton EP, Skeleton Crew
EP. There's Over Your Dead Body.
Right.
There's the second version of Over Your Dead Body that doesn't have Guaranteed to Bleed, Resident Evil, probably some other stuff I'm forgetting off the top of my head. Sorry, Joe. I know I should know this. Then Jason did.
Teenage Dreams. Teenage
Dreams isn't on version 2.
Yeah, but that song that's like my favorite Mr. Monster song.
That's a great one.
I think I like that song a lot. I really, really, really do. It's a phenomenal song.
Guaranteed to Bleed just always resonated with me, so that was always my favorite.
Nice.
But yeah, and then he did Deep Dark. There's the Skeleton Crew EPs. There's 2 versions of that. The first thing they put out was Songs from the Crypt, the cassette only thing.
See, I like that Prom Night better. I like that Prom Night the best. That's a good prom night.
Yeah, and then there's the I don't remember how long it was up, but on the Mr. Monster site there was a downloadable album called Breaking Hearts and Eating Brains. That was the Songs from the Crypt cassette tracks. I think that was also the All My Monsters tracks, and I know I'll Watch Them Die from the Cannibal Flesh Riot soundtrack was on that too.
Right. He did a song for that, and as well as Blitzkid, which is like Stripes. The only time Stripes ever recorded with Blitzkid is
that one track.
On that one track that's his one immortalized sort of situation.
Which is, the irony of him being like the longest running drummer in that
Right.
band, but not being on any recordings other than that isn't
Right.
lost on me.
And the person who's actually the person who plays on the most Blitzkid song, maybe not the most. I actually someone could probably correct me on that, but who plays on their two, seminal releases is friggin' Paul. I'm not laughing at you, Stripes. I just find that's just crazy that he's done the less amount of shows.
Paul is just such a nice, quiet, unassuming guy, and then you get him behind a drum kit and
he's played on a lot of stuff.
Fury.
He's played on a lot of stuff. Hold on. Joe has left a lot of comments here. Let's see what he says. He says, it didn't feel right to advertise. Jason's mother asked that we do something, and no doubt the fellows were going to end up all at some bar afterward. Yeah, dude, totally. Joe, you did it the right way. It makes perfect sense. Didn't think anyone would object to jamming at that point, and none of us cared what we sounded like. It wasn't about that. None of us had played those songs even one single time before that gig. Well, it sounded pretty good to me on stage. And Tracy did a pretty good job singing Over Your Dead Body. He really can do that song some justice, I thought. Maybe Jeff Grunn, if anyone. I knew he absolutely didn't know the material as he was never in the band. I just trusted Jeff could pull it off. Had he agreed to it, which he would have. Nice. And he says, lastly, you never heard as many Mr. Monster songs as you know. Yes, there is the what's been put out is only scratching the surface of
tip of the iceberg.
The tip of the iceberg for Mr. Monster, and who knows what the future may or may not hold. But that's a good notion to know that not all is what is seen out there right now. I think that's wonderful. A wonderful feeling for any fan of any band. But what were we talking about right? Oh yeah, the irony of Paul. Paul played more Blitzkid songs than Stripes did, but he did the least amount of shows, and Stripes did the most amount of shows.
Yeah,
crazy. Did Billy Bones play on more studio tracks?
Billy. Well, I know he's on "Let Flowers Die" and "Trace of a Stranger."
Okay.
So that's 2 albums right there.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not sure where he falls on the stuff before that. He might have been on more than that.
Yeah.
I don't know where Stu stopped and Billy came in. I just know Billy's on Trace and "Let Flowers Die."
Stu plays on Revisited and Terrifying Tales.
What about Songs for the Aesthetically Challenged?
That is Chris White.
Okay.
Songs for the Aesthetically Challenged, and here's me flexing what Blitzkid stuff that I'm aware of. Songs, because I did not grow up with Blitzkid by any means, but
me either.
I spent a great deal immersed in
the
world, so I know a thing or two, a couple of things. I would imagine. I feel okay talking about. And so the Aesthetically Challenged is actually just Tracy and Chris White. So Goolsby doesn't play on that. However, it's not really a Blitzkid release in that. I mean, it is and it isn't, in the sense that there's only one song that carries over to like the regular Blitzkid canon. And I'm not even sure. I guess they were called Grape, and then they changed their name to Blitzkid. So it's kind of like proto Blitzkid. So really, the first, and it came out way after. So the first Blitzkid really is Tracy, Goolsby, and Stu. Yeah. But Chris White has always been like the shadow member of Blitzkid, who is doing demo. He's helping Goolsby the demo stuff.
I'm pretty sure he did something on Apparitional too.
He sure did. He played drums on Head Over Hills.
I knew he was on. I knew he did something on that album.
He might have even drummed on more than that, but I know he drummed for certain on Head Over Hills, and he definitely did drums for the Split Personalities EP, because I was in the studio when they recorded that, or at least some of that. So I was down there with them. It was just me. It was me, Tracy, and Goolsby, and then a little bit it was me, Tracy, Goolsby, and Chris, which is like the original slash like legacy lineup, I guess you want to call it now.
Yeah,
I don't know. I
that
don't know
makes
how you
sense.
want to, right? Because like he's the legacy member, the shadow legacy member. So he, you know, when they do recorded stuff, you know, Chris is the guy. Chris is playing drums on Gathering of None, and he did some of Goolsby's or most of Goolsby's material, right? So so then but yeah, they recorded I think 2 songs when I was there. They did 2 songs in the studio. But the real interesting thing was, and I have it somewhere on my tapes in my archive, is one of the earliest Blitzkid rehearsals was being digitized. And I have some of it recorded. And it's like they're doing the Pumpkin Patch Murders. We're all sitting on a couch listening to this thing being digitized. And it's like super slow. Pumpkin Patch Murders, like the intro, it takes like 15 minutes. Not literally, but it's like super. Oh my God, it just takes forever. Yeah. So I think Stu is on 2 releases. And again, Tracy, please correct me. Joe, correct me. Someone, Robbie,
Someone who
correct me.
knows better than
Either one of us. I think it's Stu on the first 2, mine not including Chris White on that first demo. It was really just a demo. They did it on a 4-track in Chris White's bedroom at his house in Bluefield.
Okay.
And it was just, I don't even think I'm not sure if there's bass or if it's just guitar and drums. It might just be guitar and drums and Tracy's vocals. And that has Slaughter on the Sock Hop. And then every other song, Couch Potato Romance, all those other songs, those are not really Blitzkid songs, even though those are great songs or songs that would eventually be cast aside. And then, yeah, Billy Bones for those next 2 releases. So however many songs those were. Then you have Paul Klein.
Yeah.
And then for Apparitional, you have Chris Wright and you have
Rick.
Yeah. And then Chris White for Split Personalities. Yeah. So I think that covers.
Wait, Chris, I thought Dave from the Crypt Keeper 5 played on Split Personalities.
How many tracks is on Split Personalities? 4 or 5 tracks?
Man, I mean, I know Wretched's on there, but I'm drawing a blank for how many.
No, Wretched is not. Wretched is not on Split Personalities. Nope.
It's not?
Nope. They do Monocaine Blues, Devil is a Vampire. They do
2 of the Crypt Keeper 5 songs. They do
right.
Lunacy, Lonely Mr. Cadaver.
Yep.
And Midnight on Lover's Lane.
Right. And then the other 2 are
supposed to be on Split Personalities.
Possibly.
Wretched.
But the
Wretched,
2 songs,
Wretched was definitely originally supposed to be on Split Personalities.
I watched them track and record and have shot footage of them doing Monocaine Blues and The Devil is a Vampire. Those are the 2 tracks that they had done. So I thought that those have Chris White. Nope, Chris White.
Well, I just mean on Split Personalities. I thought Dave did the drums on it.
Maybe for the Crypt Keeper 5 side, or maybe for the Crypt Keeper 5 covers.
Maybe.
I have to ask Tracy. And then I'm trying to think, was there one other thing? No, that's probably it. Hold on, let's read these comments. Mr. Monster is best digested hearing the original version of Over Your Dead Body from front to back. The second and more common version of Over Your Dead Body is not exemplary of the band. Okay, fair enough, Joe. Listen, I have still not heard the original version of Over Your Dead Body. So, you know, that could be the case. I think you gave me, or I took from you, version 2. When we were on tour, I got to take a bunch of Joe's music, so I've got a bunch of tasty.
He's got a lot of good stuff. Yeah, version 1 is definitely better.
Treats.
Version 2 doesn't have any of the hard stuff like
gotcha,
like Resident Evil or Teenage Dreams isn't on it. Guaranteed to Bleed isn't on it.
Dude, that Teenage
Joe's
Dream
right.
song. I know. I think that's Joe, and that's Joe's song. That's not even
Yeah.
Jason's song.
Yeah.
It's a great song. Chris White plays on more than most people realize. He plays on only a few songs on some records, but he's there more than most realize. And apparently, Bat Whispers is Chris. I did not know that. So he played on 2 tracks for certain. Robbie says Chris does the Goolsby tracks for Apparitional. Rick does the Tracy tracks. There you go. So Chris actually does half the tracks, or whatever the Goolsby songs are. That's Chris.
Whatever the split is. Okay.
Wow, that's so interesting, and that kind of makes sense for their like. That's a very interesting. That's very interesting notion right there. Robbie also says Pumpkin Patch was originally Nowhereville from the Aesthetically Challenged CD. Okay, I've got to check that out. I never heard that. I guess I've never listened to it all the way through. Songs of the Aesthetically Challenged. Joe says, "Wow, this is turning into a serious Blitz Kid history crash course." Joe says, "In my opinion, the feather in Mr. Monster's cap was very specifically that first version of Over Your Dead Body." All right, Joe, I got to hear it. Where can I listen to it? It's out of print. Is it on YouTube? Send it to me, Joe. Send it to me.
Save your pennies and find a version on eBay.
Man, I can only imagine. Robbie says Wretched was recorded during those split sessions. Oh, how about that? He's right. Because split personalities was recorded over a longer period of time, because I only saw the tail end of split personalities, and it was on a bootleg that was distributed underground. How about that? Okay, so a bootleg version of split personalities does have Wretched, so that does answer your question there, Mr. Zombie Alex. And Joe says it's very long. I guess he's talking about Over Your Dead Body, especially for a horror punk record. 19 tracks, 22 were recorded in the session, and we both added and forgot to record a song, not including the intro. I have and lost. I can't find it. It's somewhere in my archive. I have Stripes and Joe doing these acoustic renditions of the song Over Your Dead Body as they're practicing for Ghouls Night Out 10. And you really just hear the bare bones of the song, and it's really great recording. It's so great. Nice. It's so great that I wish that it existed. It should be released in some way, shape, or form. It's that great. And if I could find it, I surely would give it to Joe for him to do with that his fancy, but I have no idea where it is. I truly don't. I can't. I've looked and I've looked and I've looked and I can't find it. I just want to hear it again, because I remember that's when I really was made aware of, like, oh wow, the songwriting of Mr. Monster is pretty great in terms of this Over Your Dead Body song. I was like, whoa, that's like a really great song. I didn't know what they were playing. We were in Utah, I think, or something, and they Stripes pulled out an acoustic. Joe had an acoustic. I don't remember where Tracy was. I think Goolsby was sleeping in a hotel or something. And we were just in this box truck, and they just start jamming out. I was up in the loft where the bed is, and they were just jamming out on this song, and it was really freaking great, man. Really, really great.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Joe says it's the variety and the journey of Over Your Dead Body that I find most admire of it, and I agree. Not to mention its production, packaging. It's a hefty offering with a lot of variety. Which I believe is one of the reasons why you can't actually put Over Your Dead Body on an LP, because it's too freaking long, which goes back to, like, hey, do an EP with like the not the creme, again, for me, the creme de la creme, but like, I'm sure any fan would want every fucking song on there. But for me, I'd be like, all right, let me cherry pick the songs that I just really just want to hear over and over and over again. And it would be, I feel that way about a lot of records. There's just a lot of different records out there where I'm just like, give me these like 5 songs on an EP, and then like make a super like a sharp EP that cuts your cheek and makes you bleed, when you listen to it. Just
fit everything on a double album if it doesn't fit on one.
That is also.
There's no Mr. Monster fan out there that's going to want you to cut that and make it a single album.
Oh, you're so right.
It comes down to having everything on 2 or cutting it and doing one. You're not going to find anyone who's going to want to cut it.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Only someone who is a casual listener like myself of Mr. Monster would want that, you know.
Don't seem to be too many of those out there, Jeff.
They're not.
The fans tend to be, pretty rabid for that band.
It's the same thing with Blitzkid. And you know, the
Yeah.
irony is, and I really do. I've touring with the band and whatever with the band, I've really grown to love and admire their music. But it's kind of ironic that the band I've seen most times live happens to be Blitzkid. I've seen Blitzkid 55 times live. It's crazy.
That's a nice even number.
That's a nice even number. Round number. I don't know about even.
Yeah,
it's an
nice number. Round number.
Joe says it very well might be the longest horror punk record recorded in a single session. And at the time, it was the closest to being compared to Famous Monsters Digipack over 19 songs, a major production jump. You know, Joe is giving away all his tasty tidbits that he could be saving for a wonderful Mr. Monster retrospective. He's just letting it all out of the caboose.
I'm sure he'll tell it again if we're lucky enough to get that retrospective.
You know, I got to tell you, I was sitting here, I'm going, did you watch the thing I did, the 1979 thing that I put together?
I think I tried to find it and I couldn't get it to work.
You should totally watch it. You should watch it on YouTube. It's available on YouTube if you're a Misfits fan, and I know you're a Misfits fan, so check it out. It's the entire year of 1979 told in like 3 hours. And it's funny. I was kind of thinking in my head, like, will I be able to, because I'm going to basically retell some of that story, but using footage that I actually have the rights to, like featuring interviews from Alex Story, Argyle Goolsby, maybe Michael Graves, probably not, Mike Idias, Bobby Steele, Mr. Jim, Joey Image, R.I.P. I just have like this laundry list of people, and I'm going, will people be interested in hearing, a similar story that's already been told a few times, if it's presented in this way? And like, that's like my greatest fear. I think the answer is yes.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Horror fans are rabid. They'll take everything and anything they can get.
I got to tell you, what my real, like, if I really had I got to wrap this thing up. It's like, I can't believe it's 1:00. You're so easy to talk to, Alex.
I try not to be difficult.
Good job. No, you're great. You're great. My dream, my real dream, my secret dream is to finish the Misfits documentary. They Came from Lodi, and then find the right tour package. And then I'm not a musician, but I could go out with the movie. So have it not available to own, but instead to take the movie on tour. Have the movie play and then have the bands play. Maybe even
That's a cool idea.
Have like, like a Misfit set, before or after live Misfit set, and show the movie, do a Q&A or some bullshit like that. And I'm just thinking in my head, like, again, like, touring will never be the same ever, but like thinking in my head, like maybe this is a way to show this movie, not to just like try and get in film festivals so quickly, maybe try and build some buzz in a really, like, trying to take a page out of the Blood-Sucking Zombies from Outer Space book. And, they did this really interesting thing, and instead like take the movie out on tour as if it was a band. And just let it play.
Really interesting idea. It's different, and people like different. People are sick of the same old thing.
And literally,
you could even set up a step further, and like if you're going to do a Misfits set,
like, I would not do the Misfits set.
Well, no,
somebody else in some way
do it.
Yeah,
you could take, like, if you really wanted crowd interaction, you could do what they did at Dingbats that one time and have like Misfits karaoke, have members of the crowd come up and do it.
For many reasons, I was not at that show. Actually, I think I was in Israel, which is why I wasn't at that show. I always go to Israel. My wife is Israeli. I remember when they did that. I think that's the first time that Goolsby and Tracy had shared a stage since Blitzkid, which was really not that far apart.
Right.
It was only like 3 years or something, which is kind of funny. But that is a phenomenal idea. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
Do
why not?
a Misfits
Crowd
karaoke
interaction.
on the road. Yeah, bring people up. I mean, shit, I'd get down on that too. I'd probably sing a song or two, and then show the movie and do that. That would be a lot of fun. Like, make it super duper exclusive, like an exclusive package. You know, people would book that, and then you just plug into the PA, plug up, put up a screen, and then do a Misfits karaoke afterwards, or have you know, if I find the right artists to do this package with, you know what I mean? Because it's like, wow, you're kind of blowing my mind. You're like giving me these ideas that I didn't even think about.
Have you heard of the band Punk Rock Karaoke?
Yes, I'm familiar with that. Yeah.
Same principle. There you go. Just do that.
Yeah.
But all Misfits.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's an interesting
merit.
It's an interesting notion. I mean, I'd have to, there would be a lot of logistics to figure out.
Yeah.
But that would be really, really fun. Austin Smith says, I would have to do my whistle version of Some Kind of Hate. I did a, you know what? I'm going to play it for you right now because I own that. It's mine. You want to hear something really, really fun? Really silly?
I think we both know the answer to that.
Okay. Well, even if you don't, I'm going to play it for you anyway, just because. Give you 1 second while I set it up.
Yeah.
We'll end with this. Hold on 1 second. My Lord. I was not expecting to go this long, dude. Mm-hmm. Holy hell. When you go, you go. When you got to go, you got to go.
Get going. What can I say?
Some Kind of Hate. See if we can find that on my channel. There it is. Okay. Some people are not a fan of this cover. All right. So, as I said, I'm not a musician. However, I'm a passionate music fan, and in desperate attempts, it's very frustrating to want to make music or to try to make music and not have a musical bone in your body to do it. And so, not knowing how to play any instruments, I attempted to try and record a Misfits track, and it ended up being this a cappella situation. And I'm going to play it for you right now. So here's me, Mr. Jim, and France Coma at Mr. Jim's store. Photo by Joe Truck. I'm going to play this for you. It's 2 minutes. Ready? And you should be able to hear this. Let me know if you can't hear it.
I don't hear anything.
Well, that sucks.
Yeah, it does. If you can't get it to work, just send me the link in Messenger.
Yeah, I'll probably end up just doing that. But wait, let me try this one more time.
Yeah,
and
sure.
if I can't get it, then I can't get it. Oh, you know what? Because I have to do share audio. That's why. Okay, now this should work. All right, ready? Hold on. All right. So I try to do my own arrangement. And this is my own version of the Misfits, Some Kind of Hate, a cappella. Can you hear that? Some kind of hate. Can you hear it?
Yeah, my phone keeps breaking out, or breaking off. But I can hear it.
All right, here's the fun part. This is the whistle. Danzig.
Very much like if you gave, if the Ronettes or the Shangri-Las had male singers and were given a Misfits song.
It was such a fun, it's just a fun little experiment trying to record something and trying to add harmonies where there aren't any before.
If you don't experiment, you don't get anything new good.
That's right. Austin says this sounds very close to the Fiend Club Lounge version with vocals. I've never heard it. Now I got to listen to that.
I remember when that CD came out, but I never picked it up or really listened to it.
Joe says, I'm not saying it's better than or even as good as Famous Monsters, but I can't think of a horror punk record that was that long ambitious or was produced and packaged professionally from 2001 up until Goolsby's Darken Your Doorstep record. And he says, we did Misfits karaoke. It was my effing idea. That was not the GNO show. We even got a C&D from Jerry for it. Okay, I was wrong. Wasn't that a Ghouls Night Out show?
No, that was the year that they didn't do Ghouls Night Out. That was the year where it was...
They fell out with Matt Pathetic. Yes.
Bats and Shadow Windhawk played, and they ended with the karaoke.
Right. Joe, that's a great idea, and might listen. Your gear gets stolen all the time. Maybe this idea is going to get stolen from you too. Who knows? I mean, that's assuming that again, that a lot of logistics would go into something like that. But imagine, I mean, you could literally hit every major city market.
Yeah,
show the film. They came from Lodi with karaoke set afterwards. Holy crap, that would be sick.
Absolutely,
that would work. People would love it. Okay, I think that's it. Listen, we have 3 minutes until 3 hours, so let's cap it at 3 hours exactly. So we have 3 minutes. If anybody else wants to say anything, what do you got cooking besides? So you're doing the Robbie Bloodshed stuff.
Yeah.
What about Zombie Mafia?
Well, we've been busy. We shot a full set live stream that we're going to be throwing up in the near future on YouTube.
That's wonderful.
We're also going to have a music video separate from that, but shot at the same time. We've been using our downtime recording. We've basically turned our guitarist Eddie's basement into a recording studio. He's got all the gear, so we've been doing a lot of songwriting and recording. Obviously we can't be gigging right now, but we don't want to be wasting the time either. So we're putting it to good use.
Cool, man. That's good.
Yeah, it's keeping my chops up.
What do you think? When do you think everything's going to go back to normal and I'm going to be able to take my movie out on the road as a tour package?
I mean, I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic. I work in a box office for a theater, a Broadway-style theater. So I'm cautiously optimistic. Maybe sometime around September or October, things will start getting back to... I mean, I don't have any inside information or anything like that, but I'm hoping maybe by September or October, the vaccine and everything will be distributed enough that bands and filmmakers like you can start doing their thing again, and maybe we can have some semblance of normalcy.
I don't think it's going to be till I think 2022 is when we're going to finally start seeing like a return to live show normalcy, that sort of thing. I think this whole year is going to be better than 2020 was for certain, but I think it's going to be a transition. Well, I mean, we have a vaccine now, which definitely helps a bunch, but I think also it's going to be a transition year. We're going to transition back to, some semblance of whatever you might call normalcy.
Hopefully. I mean, I'm basing, bands like Guns N' Roses have their big stuff rescheduled for 2021. So I'm just hoping that they can actually, do it.
Listen, I hope for every musician. I really do. I truly, my heart goes out to everybody. I've made that abundantly clear numerous times. But if I'm being pragmatic and realistic, I don't think we're going to see that transition fully until 2022.
Fair enough. I mean, all we can do is hope for the best and prepare for the worst.
And I get the ultimate validation from Joe. The vocals on your cover were more in key than most Misfits covers, including the modern, massive autotune ones. Good job. Listen, that's a wonderful compliment. I don't think it was in key or anything. You know what it was? I literally took the track and I just layered over it in GarageBand, and then I muted the original track so I could stay in time. And it's literally like I'm a tracer, like Chasing Amy. I just traced over it. I didn't really, and added my own arrangements and stuff. Because if I were to, but thank you, Joe. You're very kind. Also, there is an a cappella version of the Astro Zombies on YouTube. Yeah, Glenn's isolated vocals, and you really get to hear the majesty of Glenn Danzig's voice on these raw tracks that were from Guitar Hero or whatever it was, where he's just going like full on. I attempted to sing some Misfit songs when we were doing 10 favorite Misfit songs, 10 favorite Sam Hain songs, 10 favorite Danzig songs, and Steve Zing was like, Jeff, you have to stop singing. I was like, never gonna stop singing. Last thing before you go, I didn't ask you the thesis question because I always forget because I'm an idiot like that. The thesis question of the show is called Pizza Punk. Right. Zombie Alex, is pizza punk? And
I was waiting for you to ask me that. I was thinking
why?
My answer is yes.
Okay.
Pizza is punk. Now, I do want to say, to be fair, when you had Robbie on the show, he brings up a good point. The froofy kind, the margarita, the fancy stuff, not punk.
Right.
But here's my thing.
Right.
Your stereotypical pizza, your crust, your marinara, your mozzarella cheese, the pizza that when you say the word pizza, 9/10 of your audience is going to think of that.
Right.
And to me, it's punk rock. And my reasoning is, number one, the Ramones had pizza like every meal when they were on tour. It may have only been Domino's, but at least it was consistent. They knew what they were getting. Number two, in Cheetah Chrome's book, which I mentioned before,
right,
he mentions, when they were first in New York, they basically made enough money for a pack of cigarettes and a slice of pizza a day, and then they'd eat dinner at CBGB's, the Chili. God bless them for being brave enough to do that.
That Steve would jerk off into. Stiv.
Yeah. But the point I'm trying to make is, to me, punk rock isn't your leather jackets, your spiked hair, your hardcore guitars. To me, punk rock is like Richard Hell and the Void. My ideal on punk rock is like making the most with what you have. It doesn't, it doesn't have to be your stereotypical punk sound. It's doing what you want, and typically it's the opposite, or just wanting to break away from the normal. And pizza is cheap, it's effective, it'll feed you, and the original punk band survived on it. It's making the most with what you have. It's making the most with those three ingredients. So to me, pizza is punk.
Well friggin' said. Well said. Zombie Alex, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. This was truly great.
Man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Joe says,
up with you.
Joe says, man, I'm bored as fuck. Interactive TV is just too much fun. I love both you dudes a ton, and y'all have too many questions and questionable comments for me to have exhibited any discipline. Joe, I thought you did a great job exhibiting great amount of discipline. So there's that. Joe was going to actually come on. Joe and I are going to do a commentary for Return of Living Dead. I got to figure out the logistics, but we're going to talk about a movie that we both really, really love. And that will premiere, I don't know, live or somehow. I've got to figure all that out, but okay. Cool. That's it. That's another episode of Pizza Punk. Peace and hair grease. Bye-bye.